So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors meeting for July 23rd, 2024. And I have asked Supervisor Brandon to lead us in the pledge.
Please rise.
All right, so now will be the time for oral communications. And, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So we have Supervisor Haff is joining us remotely still due to her previous injuries. And so I'd like to allow Supervisor Haff to please state the circumstances.
Yes, hi. According to AB 2449, I'm participating remotely due to just cause as a need related to a physical disability. I'm hoping this is the last time that I can return in August. But for today, I have to participate from my home, and there is no one here in the home with me. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And we are looking forward to your return. So looking to the clerk, we'll do a roll call vote on accepting Supervisor Haff participating remotely. Oh, if we could get a motion, please. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Campbell, second by Supervisor Brandon, and roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk.
Aye.
Supervisor Haff.
Aye.
Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
Okay, very good. And sorry for the misstep here this morning. It's been kind of a confusing couple of days here with lots of things going on. Okay, so now at this point, we'll look to oral communications. And as I've expressed in the past, I fully realize that the public is allowed to speak using whatever language that they would like to, whether we consider it good or bad, inappropriate or not, it is still their right. That said, I would ask that when people come up to the podium to speak, to please have respect and, consider, the audience, the public and staff, members that are listening. And just as a reminder, when people come up to the podium, you've got 3 minutes that you're allowed. After 2 minutes, there'll be a tone. And we have the clock up here, so that gives you the warning that you have 1 minute left. And so with that said, I will look to see if there is public comment this morning. Oral communications. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to the Republic of California and Tuolumne County, because and that's as far as I'm going to go. I don't have time to insult you, so I got to go forward. I got a lot to talk about. Nia Kirk, I read in the Union Democrat, I'm just paraphrasing it, Kirk said, this is reality. I can't stand people who just sit there at the what was that? That was on the 14th, June 14th, and updated from the Union Democrat on 6/17, that sit there and say they're wasteful spending. I've challenged almost every single one of you to go out for coffee, and not a single one of you has returned my phone calls or email. Kirk, I hate taxes. Go through the budget with me and show me where you can make cuts. I will. I'll show you how to do that. Because from May 27th, I picked up 20 oath of office. That comes with a price tag. And then on July 9th, I picked up 69 more copies, the oath of office. That comes with a price tag. You've been hiring in those 2 months were 6 weeks apart, 89 people. That all comes with a price tag. So why are you hiring when you should have a hiring freeze? You knew the American Rescue Plan was running out. You should have froze it January, February. And you all knew this. Tracy Riggs has known this. And so you're screwing around. My apologies, I shouldn't have said that. You're messing around and claiming, and I will meet with you, and I'll show, all I need is Heather, liquid paper, a color Xerox machine, and I want Christine Kuna to kind of watch over everything. And I'll show you how to cut money right here and send a letter up to the state capitol. And I got 59 seconds. Okay, next one. Vote. Oh, if you need my email, contact Cody. He's got my email address. All right, vote no on the 1% sales tax for the county because you're lying. And to punish you, we should just vote no. But I'm going to vote no. I can't speak for anybody else. Okay, K-12, go.k12.com. That's for parents. The recent law to misclassify your children's gender at school. And go to this website and teach your kids at home and get them away from the crooked teachers union. Okay, 8. ChildSupportMadeSimple.com. How to sue judges, commissioners, magistrate, and clerks. Title 28, U.S. Code 1654. ChildSupport.com is for men, any guys, and it's for, there's about 75 videos. So that will help you not to pay child support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional oral communications? Good morning.
Good morning, hi. Thank you for being here. My name is Mystery Bradford, and I am a Tuolumne County, Sonora, city limits resident. And I'm wondering a couple of different things. One, why can't we use the offices that already have power and AC running to them and on all the time? Why can't we use them as cooling centers when you're not using them right now? Why are they locked up, wasting power? 2, why are you making it harder and the homeless go into the sun and not be in the shaded area where they're safer? And why is there nowhere for people who do not have AC to go when it's the hottest part of the day from 3 to 5? Where is there for us to go? Because I'd like to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment under oral communications. And again, these, and I didn't state it to begin with, but these are for items that are not on the agenda. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kayla Northington. I'm with Chicken Ranch Rancheria of Miwok Indians of California. That's the tribe, not the casino. Not to say that the tribe doesn't own the casino. It's just they're two very different entities. So the tribe applied for a grant through OVC last year. It was granted, and this grant is to give aid to victims of crime. It's also to help, prevent that as well, right? And so we received that, and we've decided to put all of this money and funding that we have towards human trafficking education and awareness. So I'm here to talk more to the public than anybody else. We are providing community trainings and little pop-ups around all the communities in Tuolumne County. We are going to Sonora. We'll be there tomorrow at Cervantes. The presentation is right at noon. It will be a 30-minute presentation. There is food available, so if anybody's hungry, you can come by and grab a bite to eat while you also grab some information. But we do just kind of want to let you know that we're doing good work out in your community. We are providing this to the community for many reasons. One of those reasons is that human trafficking is a $150 billion industry, according to the Department of Justice. And one of the other reasons is that we've got a misguided scope on what that looks like in our community, which makes our community very vulnerable to it. It makes our community possible to have traffickers in it, and they'll go completely unnoticed. And so the biggest thing that we really wanted to address right off the bat was, what does that look like in our community? How can we be prepared for it? What can we do for people that are targeted for human trafficking? Most importantly, what can we do to protect our kids? And so we are going out and giving these trainings. If you would like any information on those trainings, you can email me directly, K, as in kite, Northington, it's like North Star and then Ington, just like Washington, at crtribal.com. Okay, you can also go onto the Instagram for Chicken Ranch Rancheria. Again, make sure it's not the resort or the casino, and you'll be able to find information there. But we want to address the whole community, invite everybody that can make it. Again, there's food, and they will, I think, all be at noon. They're all half-hour presentations. We'd love to see anybody there so that we can get ahead of human trafficking in our community, okay?
Thank you, and thanks for the information on offering to meet with people. Additional public comment under oral communications. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. So now would be the opportunity for staff to give an update regarding what's going on with their individual areas and enlighten both the board as well as the public. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, members of the board, Chair Goldenberg. My name is Leah Maroulis. I am the General Services Agency Purchasing and Contract Management Analyst. I'm here to announce that the Purchasing Department is going to host a county property surplus sale Friday, August 2nd from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at 28 North Lower Sunset in Sonora. There will be no vehicles, but miscellaneous county property will be available for purchase to the public. If anybody has any questions, they can give me a call at 209-533-5528. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And good luck on the sale. Additional staff reports. No, we'll just leave it at them. Okay, I don't see any other staff that are coming forward, so we will move forward to the consent calendar. And so I'll look first to the board. We've got a fair amount of items on our consent calendar. Are there any items that any member of the board wish to pull for discussion? Supervisor Brandon, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to pull item 9.
Okay, so I have Supervisor Brandon for item 9. Supervisor Haft, do you have any item that you would like to pull?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay, and my other supervisors, Campbell or Kirk, nothing? Okay, so if I can have the clerk please read the consent calendar less item number 9, which is pulled by Supervisor Brandon, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Item number 1, approving the minutes of the July 9th, 2024 meeting. Item number 2, adopting Resolution 5924, authorizing the chair to execute a quitclaim deed vacating an easement for ingress and egress across a parcel of land located at 20810 Elderberry Way, adjacent to Pine Mountain Lake Airport, which is unnecessary for present and prospective use. Item number 3, determining there is a need to continue the emergency actions ordered by the county administrative officer as a result of a series of storms from February 2023 through March 2023 pursuant to Public Contract Code 22050 and TCOC 3.22.060, 4/5 vote required. Item number 4, determining there's a need to continue the emergency actions ordered by the county administrative officer as a result of a severe storm on or about March 1st, 2024, pursuant to Public Contract Code 22050 and TCOC 3.22.060, 4/5 vote required. Item number 5, waiving the second reading and approving an ordinance amending the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code Sections 5.16.10, 5.16.20, 5.1630, and 5.16130 of the county code relating to ambulance services. Item number 6, Resolution 6024, authorizing the district attorney to apply for a renewal of California Office of Emergency Services Agency grant in the amount of $326,887 for the district attorney's Victim Witness Assistance Program. Item number 7, approving the plans, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1756, the Jamestown Gateway and Main Street Revitalization Project, contained in the fiscal year 24-25 recommended budget, and issuing a call for bids to be due on August 8th, 2024 at 2 p.m. Item number 8, approving amendment agreement number 1 with Four Creeks to add additional scope of work and increase the compensation total of $746,700 related to the architectural design services to various county projects. Item number 10, approving of a general contract professional service agreement to Fender Construction Incorporated for repairs, renovations, and improvements at the Behavioral Health Housing Project on Parrots Ferry Road for $440,000 with a total not to exceed amount of $484,000, and authorize the county administrator to sign all related documents. Noting a clerical error on item number 11, the date should be August 8th, 2024, but I will read as is. Approving plans, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1749, Twain Harte Storm Drain Rehabilitation, contained in the fiscal year 2024-2025 recommended budget, and issuing a call for bids to be due on August 8, 2023 at 2 p.m. Item number 12, approving the appointment of Dr. Lawrence Brunel as the local service provider representative on the Tuolumne County Homelessness Committee with a term to expire on April 6, 2025. Item number 13, recognizing revenue in the amount of $302,500 in the Master Stewardship Agreement Cost Center and increasing appropriations in the same amount from the Watershed Improvement Program, WIP, Capacity Subgrant awarded by the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. 4/5 vote required. Item number 14, recognizing unanticipated revenue in the amount of $25,000 from the Kennedy Meadows Trust Account and increased revenue and expense in the Economic Development and Promotion budget for upgrades in the parking lot and road and complete the rail fence around the meadow at Kennedy Meadows Resort. 4/5 vote approval required. Item number 15, recognizing unanticipated revenue from the Stanford Impact Labs Evidence for Policy Fellowship for the Business Assistance and Innovation budget for fiscal 2024-2025 and increasing appropriations by $50,000. 4/5 approval required. Item number 16, awarding a contract to perform the work as shown in the plans, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1723-02, Marsh's Flat Road storm damage at First Creek and Second Creek, and authorizing the chair to sign, included the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Okay, very good. Looking to the board, I'm going to go to the board first today for comments on any items on the consent calendar. Starting Supervisor Haft, do you have any comments?
Nope, I don't.
Okay, and Supervisor Kirk, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just want to thank Public Works for the help on number 11, Twin Heart Storm Drainage. I've been going up there for, 4 or 5 years, sometimes to the concerts in the Pines, and there's like sinkholes and things happening with that whole drainage system, so I'm just excited to see us pairing up with Twin Heart CSD and facilitating any way we can to get that work done, so thank you guys.
Very good. Supervisor Campbell?
I would just thank Dr. Burnell for joining the Homelessness Committee. I think that will be a good addition to the team.
Yes. Supervisor Brandon?
Good, thank you. Just a comment to item 6, thanking our district attorney for continuing to identify ways to be able to fund the Victim Witness Assistance Program, which is a really great local program. And then also on item 7, it's taken a little while to get here, but that's just how it is with kind of all government projects. But this is something we applied for a couple of years ago, and it's going to be a real resurface of Jamestown at a time that I think it really needs it. And so I really appreciate Public Works, all the effort on it, and the support for this board in applying for this grant. And I think we're getting a very good deal on that. And just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, and so I'll add on to that also, looking forward to see what happens in Jamestown with this project. A lot of stuff going on there, and it's exciting to see, and can be a pretty big change there. And I'll also echo Supervisor Campbell with Dr. Brunel coming on the homeless committee as well. So I will look for public comment on the consent calendar. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Sharon Maravich. I'm representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. I'm here to speak on the historic Tuolumne County Courthouse that is variously titled in your packet as the Aney Street Courthouse,
So I
the
think
Aney Building, the existing
I think that item
courthouse.
is the
Sharon?
one that we pulled.
Okay,
I'm
So-
on item 9.
okay,
We
so
pulled item 9.
item number 9 was pulled, which we're going to discuss after the other
I understand.
consent
Okay, so
calendar
public
items.
can come
You're-
in. Oh, I thought
You're just a little bit early. We're going to get to item number 9 here
Sorry.
in just a moment. Yes, thank you. Additional public comment on the consent item, and I should have specified less item number 9. Good morning.
Good morning. I will also follow up Supervisor Brandon on item number 7. And it's good to see that something's going to happen in Jamestown, and I really want to thank whoever came through and cleaned up all the trash cans and the trash that was on the street, because I went to the bazaar on Friday night and they were all empty. And that was really nice to see. So I don't know who did what, but it was nice to see it finally get cleaned up. And on item number 12, I think we need to have something consistent where if you're going to apply to be on a committee, then you should attend that meeting prior to when you put in an application to be on it, so that you really know what's happening at these committee levels, so that you can make a worthwhile contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment on consent calendar, less item number 9? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board and look for a motion to approve the consent calendar, less item number 9.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Supervisor
I'll
Brandon,
I'll second.
and second by Supervisor Kirk. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg,
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell,
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk,
Aye.
Supervisor Half,
Aye.
and Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
Okay, so consent calendar passes 5-0. And if I can have the clerk read consent item number 9.
Item number 9, awarding a construction contract agreement for the Yaney Building Elevator Project to Robert Boyer Construction in the amount of $1,970,864 and authorizing the county administrator to sign.
All right, Supervisor Brandon, you asked for this to be pulled.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple discussions on it. I don't have anything really new to add into that. But as a standalone item here, I'm just not ready to move forward with it. I think we have some other issues that we need to address first, so.
Okay, so noted. Any additional comments by board members on item number 9? Supervisor Half.
Well, I thought we already decided to move forward with this several meetings ago.
That, I believe, was my understanding as well, and perhaps C.O. Riggs could enlighten us a little bit, but I believe it was, I forget which meeting it was, quite honestly.
Yeah, on June 18th, when the board adopted the budget, the staff asked the board to reconsider one final time, at least adding the elevator into the building so that you had ultimate use of that building. We did have, it was actually the vote and the direction from the board and the vote for that day, because that is the budget you have, was there were 4 of you, well, actually, there were 3 who said yes. That was Supervisor Kirk, Campbell, and Goldenberg. Supervisor Half, we had as a maybe in our matrix, but then later came back and said she thought it made sense. And then you had members of it was a Heritage and members of the museum who came in and supported doing the elevator, just not going in and renovating the historic courthouse. So it has been included in budget. That's why this is on consent. It's a 3/5 vote that is required to pass the contract. And just as something I'd like to highlight with this contract, it's fairly unusual. Most of our contractors are not local. We see them come in from the Bay Area. We see them come in from the Valley. This is a local contractor, and he's using 7 local subcontractors as well. So this money is staying local and being put back into our economy. And Mo is here if you had any specific questions about it.
Okay, that was my recollection as well, but I appreciate the clarification. And I'll just, in general, make a statement that, there's been a good amount of discussion regarding the historic county courthouse. And this item today, again, we are talking about the elevator only. It is not for other portions of the project that have been previously discussed. And my best recollection is that as a board, we have agreed to move forward with the elevator because it made good sense to do so. No matter how this building gets purposed in the future and what's on which floors, the elevator is an important aspect for ADA so that people can easily, get to all areas of that building. As far as the other areas of the building, that is not part of the discussion today. We're only discussing the elevator. There is nothing on our agenda that is talking about the other aspects about what we're going to do or not do with the balance of the building, other than all board members have expressed that they are not willing at this point to expend any additional funds on the historic courthouse other than the elevator at this point. And so we may, down the road, there can be additional discussions, but that is not the topic for today. So other board members, if there's any additional comments, we have Supervisor Kirk.
Yeah, I have comments but questions. Come on up, Mo, sorry.
Okay.
So real quick, I keep getting hit up, and because I keep getting hit up, I just want you to speak to it real quick. A lot of concern about the placement of the elevator. I know we've been talking about this for, I think, 2 years, but specifically the back of the courthouse, there's a concrete block area. It looks like it could support an elevator. Can you remind me and folks why it's not going there, and did the historic preservation folks suggest that it not go there as well?
Right. Good morning, Mo Frank, General Services Director. You're absolutely correct, Supervisor Kirk. The discussion of the location of the elevator has been going on for, I would say, over 1.5 years. It started with Eric Earhart, who was leading this project at that time. He met with HPRC at least twice. I'm not too sure. It was his project, not mine. I know there were several discussions, and also he did a tour with HPRC over at the facility in which they talked about locations of the elevator. There was a previous board memo that I sent out to all board members that showed there were 5 actual sites that were looked at as far as the location of the elevator. One of them of which was inside the facility. The other 4 were outside the facility. In consultation with HPRC, the preferred site was the one that we have selected out by what we know the palm tree kind of area next to us. One of the reasons that one of the sites that you're referring to is the one right out here where we have the handicap by the dumpsters and the handicap and the back door into the facility. One of the reasons it wasn't, well, there's several reasons. Some of the reasons why it was not selected was there was not a lot of space. It would then deter us. We only have one place for the dumpster in this whole area for both this building, the admin building, and for the courthouse building. So it would take away that. And it also is the only handicap spot, parking spot that we have. And the third reason is we do have an underground storage tank underneath there that feeds the boiler. So those are some of the main reasons why it really wasn't going to work in that spot. And the ideal spot for it was up front with concurrence from HPRC.
Okay. And then my last question was, especially in light with last Thursday's meeting with trends and projections, you know, we got some work to do. I know this project keeps on getting more and more expensive. And one thing I said a few months ago, I don't know, 2 months ago, and Tracy, I don't know, you might be able to answer this, but the reason why I voted for this was I asked a question, I don't know if it kind of got muffled or muddied a little bit, but once we put the elevator in and we go in there and we fix a few plumbing, painting, like if we don't have to do any structural work, I know we want to, but can we get people working in there once we get that elevator up and running? Because that's really what my yes vote was. And if my yes vote today is to put that up there, but we can't move people in there and start working, then I'll pull that vote back again.
So
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it does give us ultimate flexibility for use of the building. You now have accommodation for all 3 floors, especially for the 2, if you were just to use the first 2 floors for now. It does give you ultimate flexibility for anything that we might want to move in there, whether it be county services or if your board were to make a different decision to do something else.
So when will that part, or go ahead.
Well, there's, the only other thing to add to what Tracy said is we would probably, we will need to upgrade the cabling inside the building for anyone who moves in. But there is a strong possibility we can just move another team in there with very little modifications, if that's what your board wishes. Staff right now, staff is just looking for direction from your board. If you wanted to proceed in that way, we could go ahead and look at possibilities and bring, as far as movement of staff in there, or discussion of how you want to use that facility at a future board date if
So I know
you
today's
guys
about
wish.
the
Just the
elevator. I know that, but the bigger picture, and I don't know if you guys are starting to work on that or if you need board direction, but for me to be a yes vote today, I need to know that there's a plan coming to immediately potentially start using that. So how do we make that part of today's conversation since it's on the agenda?
Well, I mean, we hear you. If the rest of you are wanting us to start doing that, we will have to find out if it's a county service. We'll have to look at the networking to see if it needs to be upgraded. And many times, there's a combination of contractor work and our staff who can do that. So we'll start looking at that. And it also could be you make it available for external, but we'll look at that and we'll see. So I can't give you who it would be right now, but we can begin exploration of what would it be to get at least a network up and running for that building. And then we'll check out the HVAC and stuff like that. It's been sitting vacant for 2 years now?
Yeah.
So we need to really get in there and make sure everything's in working condition.
All right.
Supervisor Kimball.
So, yeah, and I take your point, Supervisor Kirk, and I agree. I think, the whole purpose of building the elevator is to make it a usable space, and I don't really think that conversation can begin until we have that elevator, because that's sort of the basic low-level decision that needs to be made to make it ADA accessible. And then once that's opened up, then we can, we're not going with kind of the Cadillac restoration project that was proposed. And so it's going to be something much cheaper and probably involving volunteers and, maybe donations from the community to get that building the care that it needs. But I don't see why that can't happen immediately after the elevator is finished. Is there any reason why we couldn't just immediately start?
No, what I would propose Yeah, what I would
Just clean it up
propose-
and get some
Right.
people in there.
Absolutely. It's going to take us 8 months to complete this project if your board awards this contract today. During that time, staff can do some preliminary work, if your board directs us to look at various options and look at some preliminary costs if you want. So by the time the elevator is done, your board can have all the information and make a recommendation to staff on how you want to proceed at that time.
Okay, Supervisor Brandon.
Are there any other comments?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I will look for public comment, but I want to reiterate that today's discussion and decision, in particular for item number 9, is awarding the contract for the elevator itself. It's not concerning the balance of the building, what we do or not do with the building. As I expressed just a short while ago, this board has come to the point where we had previously agreed to move forward on the elevator, but not expend additional county funds on the other project plans. So looking to the public then on that aspect. So, good morning.
Good morning. I have concerns about this, and I appreciate local funds and a local contractor, but this is an elevator. And when, I don't remember who the contractor was to fix the elevator in the Yaney building, but they did kind of a crappy job. And then you had to bring in the experts from Sacramento to fix it and make it work. Then when we had problems with this elevator, you had to bring in the elevator experts from Sacramento to make that work. And then I remember the last time when the power went out or something and this elevator went haywire, they had to come in from Sacramento and fix this elevator again. So I have concerns about a construction company that doesn't specialize in elevators doing this particular elevator, which is not new construction. You're going to be adding on to a historic building. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be tricky issues. And I just have a lot of concern about bringing in a contractor that is not an elevator expert.
Understand. Good morning.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Someday I will learn how the consent calendar comments work. Sharon Maravich from the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. I'm here to speak on the elevator to go into a building that you variously refer to as the Yaney Street Courthouse, the Yaney Building, the existing historic courthouse, the Yaney Building, AKA Yaney Courthouse, and the Yaney Avenue Historic Courthouse, and also the historic courthouse at 41 West Yaney Avenue. The first concern that I think our committee has is the landscaping. There's a mature palm tree and a mature magnolia that will have to be removed. We'd like to know if those can be replanted in that location. There's a clause in the contract that says if you run out of money, you can shut the project down. This project is in 2 different fiscal years. What is your commitment to this project? And this is just sort of curious, and that is why are you proposing to accept the high bid, which is $340,000 more than the low bid? And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask staff to come back up and address those questions, please.
Okay, sure, there were a few of them. First of all, let me take the last one first. In regards to the bids, the county only received 1 bid for this project. It was from Robert E. Boyer Construction. So we did take the lowest bid. It happened to be the only bid that we received. As far as the plans, I was privileged to have an office, or 2 offices for most of my career here that faced that area. And I enjoyed watching the palm tree sway every time we had major storms, and boy did it sway. And every spring I enjoyed the magnolia tree. If you look at the magnolia tree, down by the base, it is dying. It is, the whole, part of the main branches are concaved. It's only a matter of time before that is gonna die. I would love to replace that tree someplace. I don't know about the palm tree. We haven't had any discussion on landscaping. Most of that area will be taken up by the new elevator, including taking out, we will be taking out all of the HVAC units that are currently located in that area. So we will need that whole space.
Okay, well, I'm hearing that the magnolia might be in some state of suffering. Perhaps we can look to have an arborist take a look at that to make a decision as far as, that one. As far as moving the palm tree, I think that needs to become a part of this project. I do recall that there was discussions about this previously. So is that not part of the contract? I mean, how does the contract read and look to address
Right.
the existing items that are in the space where we're looking
Right.
to put the elevator?
So it's called out in the scope of work for this area in regards to landscaping. Dave Alley Tree Service has been retained as a subcontractor to this project. And the scope of work calls for removal of all vegetation in that area and also removal of all of the HVAC units in that area.
And was there discussion about relocation of any?
That gets quite expensive. If your board directs staff, we can look in the cost of that. But I can tell you that palm tree will be extremely expensive to be able to get out if we can. I don't even know if we if we remove it and try to relocate it somewhere, will it be viable? Another location, but that assessment has not been done.
Okay. As we move forward, Dave Alley is an arborist, I believe. So certainly they could take a look at that. I would ask that we have that discussion with Boyer as the main contractor, of course, but his subs, and to have some more discussion. I don't think that that's going to pertain to, today awarding the contract, other than we've got another aspect here that should be looked at,
Right.
and we don't even know the cost.
Right, so
You know,
what
so-
staff can do is, again, go and talk to Robert Boyer Construction, get a cost from his subcontractor for this and bring that back to the board. If your board directs staff to include it in the scope of work, we will make it part of a change order.
Yeah, we can always do an appropriate change order as needed. Okay. Supervisor Brandon, go ahead.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Chair, just want to clarify, have we closed public forum or public comment on this?
Well, we were
Yeah,
responding to questions from
Okay.
public comment.
I'm
I
ready
agree. I
for-
had kind of a similar question. We're kind of going off
Question.
of
Yeah,
the
no,
staff
it-
questions that weren't
A
part
vote
of.
after we close public
Okay.
comment.
Yeah.
So is there any additional public comment on this item number 9, regarding the elevator?
Hi, this is John Flynn, your political watchdog. I just want to say, if you're on the elevator, if you're bringing in a company that's not well-versed in, this is a historical courthouse. If there is any major damage, you're going to have, there's going to be an uproar in this county. And you will have because are they experts? You should use the company in Sacramento and give that contract to them, because they are experts. I mean, they repair it, but do they know how to put an elevator outside and bring it up? But if they start knocking out walls and doing massive damage, there will be an uproar in the county. This has been a staple. This building's been here since 1898. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay.
So to answer that question, yes, there is an elevator expert, part of the team that Robert Boyer Construction hired. It's Schindler elevator company. They are one of the premier elevator companies in the state of California, and we do have other elevators housed in some of our buildings that are there, that they have installed and they do provide maintenance for.
Okay, very good. All right, so I'll bring it back to the board and look for a motion.
Were there,
Did you,
there might have been other public comment, I'm not sure.
okay, was there additional public comment? I didn't. Okay, so I'll close public comment. I don't see any additional. Now I'll bring it back
Okay,
to the board.
Chair, I'll move that we accept the contract and approve staff recommendation for item 9.
And I'll second with the understanding that we'll have a plan in place being worked on to get folks moved in there as soon as we can.
Okay, so I have a motion by Supervisor Campbell, a second by Supervisor Kirk, and we'll look for a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg,
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell,
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk,
Aye.
Supervisor Half,
Aye.
Supervisor Brandon.
No.
Okay, so the motion carries on a 4-1 vote with Supervisor Brandon opposed and no abstains. All right, so that concludes our consent calendar. We're going to take just a short 5-minute break. We have a guest coming in for our proclamation and commendation and give them an opportunity to get in the room. So we will resume at, well, let's just call it at 9:55, a little over 5. Welcome back, everyone. So we were on our board agenda. We're moving on to our next area, which is proclamations and commendations. And if the clerk could please read item number 17.
Item number 17, consideration of approving a certificate of recognition for Lieutenant Dennis Thompson, a 102-year-old World War II veteran.
Very nice. So as we, as a board, made a decision to do some time ago, when we have proclamations, we have a board member that is assigned to present and discuss an item. So Supervisor Campbell, if you could please go ahead with this item.
Here we go. Thank you, Chair. Well, it's my great honor to highlight the accomplishments in the service of one of our District 2 citizens, Tuolumne County citizen who has served his country and his county in a variety of ways. Denny Thompson, he is a veteran of World War II, protected our country over the skies of Europe in a B-17, fighting fascism and winning that war. And beyond that, Mr. Thompson ran a successful hunting and fishing guide business in Alaska. He's done numerous adventures in Africa. He's a father of 9 kids and numerous grandkids and great-grandkids. And he's also one of the first homesteaders up in the Comstock Ranch area. So he's been active in our local VFW for many years. In fact, Denny, you can usually find Denny in the Veterans Day Parade riding in the back of an old Willys Jeep. He's also the subject of a really great book that has a lot of wonderful stories, The Legend of Lieutenant Thompson, World War II. I have a signed copy here that I got a few years ago when Lieutenant Thompson was the sprightly age of 98. So Lieutenant Thompson will be celebrating his 102nd birthday on Saturday. And so myself, the staff, members of the community thought it would be time for the Board of Supervisors to recognize Denny Thompson for his service to our community. If you'd like, I'll walk down and read the certificate to Mr. Thompson.
Yes, please do so. Yes.
All right, thank you, board members and community. In recognition of the 8th Air Force Pilot Bombardier Lieutenant Denny Thompson, in celebration of his 102nd birthday, the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors would like to thank him for his service to our country. Lieutenant Denny Thompson is a highly decorated World War II veteran and District 2 resident with 12 U.S. Air Force medals and 2 French medals. Lieutenant Denny Thompson served 30 lead missions as part of the 487th Heavy Bomber Group of the 839th Squadron based in Landhaven, England, and contributed to the war efforts on D-Day in France. Lieutenant Denny Thompson sustained multiple injuries during his service, earning him 2 Purple Hearts and several other decorations, which he is wearing on his uniform that is the same uniform he wore 81 years ago. So congratulations, Lieutenant Thompson. Thank you. So before you go, we gotta approve it through the board. And ask if there's any public comment, anyone from the community that would like to. So I'll turn it back over to the chairman.
Yeah, so absolutely looking for public comment, recognizing Denny for his life and efforts. Is there any public comment? Anybody that'd like to speak? Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to thank you very much for your service to our country. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. And that the fact that you did guide service, my husband would just be, he would love to talk to you.
Hey, that's fine. So Lieutenant Thompson, you've heard, from our board, and Supervisor Campbell, read the recognition today, and just thank you very much. And we so appreciate, you and your service. And so bringing it back to the board.
So Chair, given the fact that Lieutenant Thompson embodies the idea that it's not the years in our life, it's the life in our years, and Denny Thompson has both. I'd like to move that we approve the certificate of recognition for Lieutenant Thompson and thank him for his service to our country and our county.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Campbell, a second by Supervisor Brandon, and we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg,
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell,
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk,
Aye.
Supervisor Half,
Aye.
Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
Excellent. So on a 5-0 vote, and no matter what Lieutenant Thompson says, he professes to be not so with it or maybe not hearing. anything but. You know, I had an opportunity to sit down and have lunch with him, and he's a very, very engaging person. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. You betcha. All right. So we'll move forward on our agenda here. We'll give a moment here for Lieutenant Thompson to get his feet out, ready to motivate on out. And if the clerk could please read item number 18.
Item number 18, consideration of adopting Resolution 6124 proclaiming July 21st through the 27th, 2024 as Probation Services Week.
Very good. Welcome, Dan.
Good morning, members of the board, Chair Goldenberg. My pleasure to be here. Yes, it's once again probation, parole, pretrial services week. And it's my great pleasure. This is the 5th time I've been able to come here as chief, as your chief, and speak on behalf of our great department. And I just want to take an opportunity. I've appreciated your support since I've been in this role, and I know that you do appreciate the work that we do. And this year, we always try to, do different things with this week to acknowledge the great staff that we have. I feel very fortunate to have great staff at all levels. And I've been doing this work for 24 years now for Tuolumne County, working for this department, or I will be in 5 weeks. So I'm approaching my 24th year. I thought that seemed significant, but after hearing Lieutenant Thompson, I felt like I've got a ways to go. So what is it we do? There is some addendum there that just recently came out. CPOC put together, CPOC's the Chief Probation Officers of California Association. So they put together a nice little thing. They just released yesterday. So we thought we'd share that and members of the public can grab it. And it kind of gives just a real brief synopsis of what probation does. But over the 24 years, I think about what's changed and what's still the same. And one thing I think about that is still the same with me when I started 24 years ago, I chose this profession because I wanted to make a difference. And it's hard in this job to always recognize the changes that we make because we do it oftentimes one person at a time, working with individuals that are justice involved, and it can be difficult to see that. As I was driving down here this morning, there was an individual that was weaving in and out of traffic on a motorized skateboard, and I was getting kind of frustrated as I was trying not to hit this person, and I realized this is somebody that I supervised as a juvenile. I one time followed him around Tuolumne County, and while he was driving a stolen camper van until he ran out of gas so that I could arrest him on a warrant. I had to book him in an out-of-county juvenile hall. I had to put him in a group home. But one of the great successes I saw was, he struggled in and out of his life. He had a lot of trauma in his life. His sister had been murdered. His mom had, substance use problems, very difficult, traumatic childhood, but he actually became a success story, and he's a heavy equipment operator. Maybe still doesn't make the best choices driving motorized scooters or skateboards downtown, but he's managed to stay out of the criminal justice system. And you take stock of those little victories throughout your career, and I think that's important. The theme this year for Probation Services Week is Wellness Unveiled, Navigating the Journey. And I think that's an important thing for our officers to recognize as they're doing this difficult job. A couple of just brief stories just to emphasize what we do. And these are true stories of officers this past year, struggles that we've had. Just last week, a few weeks ago, we had a juvenile, very troubled juvenile, very difficult juvenile at our juvenile facility, attempt to hurt himself by jumping off the second tier of the building. And I know we had one of our newer juvenile correctional officers have to take a helicopter flight with him to get medical assistance out of the area. I don't think he realized that he would ever be riding in a helicopter as a juvenile correctional officer. Fortunately, there was nothing wrong with the juvenile, and he ended up being cleared and returned back to juvenile custody. But just want to emphasize the tremendous struggles we face in the jobs that we do. Anyone who's raised a difficult juvenile knows that it could be trying, and that you do your best to help them get through that time. And so you think of your difficult juvenile, if you've raised juveniles, think of their worst friends or the friends that you were most concerned about them associating with. And then times that by 10 and take those youth, those top difficult youth with all their troubles and trials, and think about all those youth from the other counties, and that's from our surrounding counties, and that's what we are working with in our juvenile detention facility. And I will say we are doing a fantastic job. We're getting those youth involved in services. We're motivating positive change using, behavior change plans, getting them involved in school, getting them through high school, getting them into college. And, these are things that weren't available to me when I first started my career. So it's a great joy to me to see that facility running just like it was expected to, if not better. And I can't, celebrate staff enough for wanting to take on those very difficult jobs. So shout out to that officer that took that helicopter ride, not expecting anything like that, to help get that youth the help he needed. Another difficult story I know for staff this past year is our adult high-risk supervision team. What do? They take the most at-risk adults. Oftentimes, they were failures in our juvenile system or came into our adult system with a juvenile history. This one individual struggling with substance use, we work really hard to get them into programming to address their needs, and a very likable individual. So what do? As soon as they fall off, once we get them in services, we do our best to get out in the community and get them plugged back into services. We had a parent contact us on this young adult, and gave us a tip that, he thinks his son might be using again and possibly staying at a local hotel. And so I know our staff responded there to try to get, him the support he needed. And, that call ended up turning into a coroner's call, and I know it was very hard. There's fentanyl out there, it's readily available, and it's taking lives. And so our officers are seeing this on a daily basis sometimes, the struggles that people are dealing with, and they're doing their best to plug them to services. I don't mean to get dark, but I think what I was trying to get at is what we're focusing on this year is the wellness of our staff, and our staff don't know that. We're taking the theme this year and we're running with it. And so one thing we're going to do when we're having our celebration and barbecue and staff meeting this week is we're going to roll out a new application, smartphone application. Cortico, they are an offshoot of Lexipol. Lexipol manages our policy. And it's a great app. It puts everything in the hands of our officers that need help. We have a peer support program, but this app would directly link our officers with any of the services and supports they need. It can be anonymous. It can help them find help, mental health counselors that maybe are outside of the area, not ones they're working with directly in the community, but it also has tons of articles on how to lead a healthy lifestyle, just geared for people that work in law enforcement. It's been implemented with a lot of success in other agencies, and so that's something that we're excited to be rolling out. And I just want to focus on the wellness of my staff this year. It's going to be a theme that I think that we want to continue to focus on. When I started out 24 years ago, I came into this profession from having been a teacher for a couple of years, and I actually took a little bit of a pay cut to do that. I remember people thinking, "What are you doing? You're doing this, probation work," and I think the board's helped us come a long way. So I don't. Hopefully, hopefully we're doing a little bit better than teachers, or at least somewhat on par with that. I appreciate the board for doing that, but my point is, we want staff to have the opportunities not just to be successful on their daily lives, but to be successful parents, family members, have opportunities to grow and develop within our department, and stay healthy and focus on themselves when they need to. So with that, I'll move on. I didn't want to read the whole memo to you, and maybe I rambled a bit there, but I avoided having to read this full memo, so I'll just take it up on the second page there. Tuolumne County Probation Department plays a crucial role in enhancing public safety and fostering positive behavior change among justice-involved individuals. Our dedicated professionals employ evidence-based practices to supervise and rehabilitate over 750 adults and 70 juveniles in the local community and from surrounding communities. By collaborating with local law enforcement, the Superior Court, educators, social workers, and treatment professionals, we provide comprehensive support that includes proactive supervision, drug testing, and access to essential services such as residential treatment, transitional living programs. Our efforts not only help to reduce recidivism, but also facilitate the successful reintegration of individuals into society, thereby contributing to a safer and more supportive community for all. It is with great pride that we celebrate Probation Services Week, recognizing the tireless efforts of local probation professionals and their commitment to promoting public safety, offender accountability, supporting victims, and encouraging positive change to build a stronger community. It is with that I respectfully recommend that the board adopt a resolution proclaiming July 21st through 27th, 2024 as Probation Services Week in Tuolumne County.
Very good. Thanks, Dan, and for providing the additional information as well. I've asked Supervisor Kirk, based on his background, to discuss this, from the board. So,
Sure.
Supervisor Kirk.
First of all, Chief Hawks, I like your bambling better than your reading memo, so do that any day. It's always more personable. No, thank you, Chair Goldenberg. You reached out, asked me to speak a little bit about this. I mean, I have a little bit of experience in probation, I think about a year, and then I've been in corrections for the last 17 years. But I think, first of all, I want to thank you for your leadership. I know things were rough, and I always bring this up, but about 4 or 5 years ago with the juvenile hall, this board came into it, it's built, it's there. So how do we make it sustainable the best we can? And I know you and your department came under some pressure, and you guys really delivered as far as going out, getting contracts, getting the surrounding counties to realize that this is here and it's here to stay and it's got to be sustainable. And so I appreciate your work on that and keeping it that way, because at the end of the day, when you guys do deliver those programs and those services, the data does show it's helpful and useful. And like you said, you don't, in this side of the field, you don't really see those success stories. So when you do, and when you build a system that helps deliver those, it is cool. I think why I appreciate this today is I think my interpretation is a lot of people, when they put on the badge, people think that they're like these tough individuals and they're strong and they're, kick in doors and carry guns. But my understanding, especially people who get into probation, is the exact opposite. Their hearts are really big. They want to get in. They want to serve people. They get a little jaded because they have to be. They have to be like your high supervision team. You have to go out and kick in some doors sometimes, but then you could 5 minutes later be, weeping with people who are lost a loved one or something very traumatic happened. So it's a very emotional journey being a probation officer. One that was so emotional for me. I probably could have stayed in it. Actually, I went into corrections to be a parole agent, but it was actually gut-wrenching seeing these children in some of these circumstances. And so I think what you're doing and the lead that you're taking on, trying to get your staff as healthy as possible, that's definitely the change of the future. It's been going on for a few years now statewide, and we all know if you're not healthy, if you're not mentally healthy, it's going to be really hard to deliver those services. And so I'm really excited for you and your staff to do this. I know personally for me, a few years ago, I found out I have free access to marriage counseling through my work and some of this stuff that you're describing in here. And I was like, well, I don't need that, but I did. We went like once every 6 months. Now we go monthly. And it's the best thing to just be healthy mentally, check in with your spouse, have these resources available. I don't have access to anything on a phone. So I really hope that your employees use that. But I know at the prison there are people who have gone through some traumatic things and seen some things, and having access and talking about it and getting annual trainings, knowing that it's there, finally it breaks the envelope a little bit and people start tapping into those resources. And everybody I've heard who's touched into those resources has been very thankful. So thank you for doing that. And we appreciate your staff and we appreciate what you guys are doing. I usually don't agree with Governor Newsom on things, but he did a little summary. So, give honor where honor's due. So I'm going to read 2 of these paragraphs and then I'm going to jump into the resolution real quick. But your Governor Newsom, who I agree with on this, says probation is a multifaceted, integrated safety model that holds people accountable while providing transformative, evidence-based, and court-ordered rehabilitation programming to help justice-involved individuals successfully reenter our communities. This proven strategy connects individuals to workforce development, substance use treatment, mental health services, family engagement, educational support, and more. Probation departments have a profound impact on the safety and the health of our communities. Their work to address the underlying causes of crime through evidence-based supervision and individualized rehabilitative support services reduces recidivism. And just as I said that, my computer went out. So let me jump into the resolution. So I'm just going to read the now therefore be it resolved that July 21st through July 27, 2024 be recognized as Probation Services Week to highlight probation's immense contributions to our communities and state. So with that, I want to say thank you to you and your staff. Really dive into this. I think it will, it's part of that retention with staff because you don't want to lose them to CDCR or being a teacher. It's hard to get people up and running and to stay in that line of business. So anything we can do to support them, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Supervisor. That was great.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And with that, I will make a motion.
Okay. So we'll go to public comment first. Is there public comment on this item, number 18? Good day.
Good morning. I would like to salute them too and say that Dan is one of the people I respect most in our community. And I've told several public groups or agencies, if you're looking for a speaker, Dan is the man because he has just wonderful stories to tell about people he's known since they were this big till now. And for Supervisor Half, I have never once heard Dan Hawks use the phrase, "these people," which I really appreciate. And I can tell the wellness component because I've seen many of his probation officers out in the community volunteering at some community events and some informational events, and it's been really nice to see them. So I just think he's doing an excellent job. And I also think Mike Arndt is doing an excellent job, and I'm really happy to see that he's back at the Juvenile Detention Center, because I just think that's the best place for him. Thank you.
And thank you for your kind comments. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Neil Evans, Under Sheriff. Speaking on behalf of Sheriff Vasquez and the Sheriff's Office. Just want to thank the men and women of the Probation Department for being great partners. Just really grateful for their partnership and all that they do and all that they do for this community and the important piece of law enforcement they are. And grateful for all the hard work that they do. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional public comment? Okay, now I'll bring it back to the board. Supervisor Kirk, you.
All right, with that, I will make a motion based on staff recommendation.
Second.
So a motion by Supervisor Kirk, second by Supervisor Campbell, and we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk.
Aye.
Supervisor Half.
Aye.
Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
Very good, and thank you again for all the great work that you guys do. All right, so on our agenda, the next items that are coming up are closed session items. I'd like to have the clerk please go ahead and read the closed session items.
Item number 19, closed session, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, Michelle Holtinger et al. Versus County of Tuolumne et al., Tuolumne County Superior Court Case Number CV 66224. Item number 20, closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, Authority Government Code Section 54956.9 D2, one case.
Okay, thank you. Call for public comment on the closed session items. Is there any public comment? Okay, we're going to move into closed session. I'll look to County Council. First of all, do we expect a report out, and do we have a rough idea of timeframes for our closed sessions today?
We will not be reporting anything out. I think this will take us to noon at least, if not a little bit longer.
All right, so it is my intention that we'll go from closed session into lunch. So we will, it could be right at noon, it could be a little bit after, but we'll move from closed session into lunch, and then we will return this afternoon for our 1:30 appointments afterwards. So thank you, everybody, for this morning, and we're going to meet in the law library, is that correct? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the continuation of the Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors meeting for July 23rd, 2024. We are moving on to our afternoon appointments, starting with our 1:30 p.m. And if I could have the clerk please read that item.
1:30 p.m. appointment. Number 1, consideration of public employee appointment and swearing in of Donnie McNair to fulfill the remaining term of the vacant auditor controller position.
Very good. Thank you. And CEO Riggs, are you presenting on this?
I am.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Tracy Riggs, County Administrator's Office. It is my great honor to present this item for you for the swearing in, consideration of swearing in of Donnie McNair. This is kind of a bittersweet moment for some of us, and I won't get emotional on this one. But on June 4th, our auditor controller, Debbie Batista, submitted or told the board at that time that she was planning to retire at the end of that month. Debbie and I have worked together. She was my first mentor that I came in, has been my mentor for the last 18 and so many months, years, not months, but years and months. And so she announced her intent to retire on June 4th. And prior to the end of that term, her last day was going to be June 30th of 2024. This created a vacancy in the office, and a vacancy occurs upon the resignation of the elected official. So Government Code Section 24105 provides that when a vacancy occurs in the Office of Auditor Controller, the duty shall be temporarily discharged by the Deputy Assistant. And that is Donnie McNair. And Debbie did return. Thankfully, she's been helping him as he's learning to go through the close for our county for the first time, and that is a very important process. Government Code Section 25304 states that the Board of Supervisors shall fill by appointment all vacancies that occur in any office filled by the appointment of the board and elective county officers, except for a judge of the Superior Court and supervisors. The board may not fill the position until it is vacant. This is why we could not take action before Debbie actually retired. The process to fill a vacant elected position is similar to filling an appointed in other positions in that the board can direct an internal or external recruitment. However, in the case of an elected position, interviews, if you elect to go to the interview option, would be held in an open board session, similar to what you did with the district attorney. The decision points for filling a position when this type of action occurs is direct appointment based on the auditor, controller, and staff recommendation, an internal recruitment with public interviews, or external recruitment with public interviews. When Debbie announced her retirement, she at that time made a recommendation to your board that the Chief Deputy Assistant Auditor Controller, Donnie McNair, would be appointed as her successor. Mr. McNair does meet the requirements under Government Code Section 26945 to be elected or appointed to the Office of the Auditor Controller. In order to qualify, a person must meet one of the three criteria. They must possess a valid and active certificate of the Certified Public Accountant. They must have a bachelor's degree from an accredited university from a four-year institution with a major in accounting, or the person has served as an auditor controller, chief deputy, county, or assistant auditor controller, equivalent for a period of not less than 3 years. And Donnie does meet the government code for this, as he is a current certified public accountant. Then, in an effort to provide some additional information for you and for the community of who this individual is that you are considering today, Donnie provided some information that he and Debbie forwarded to me, and I'd like to relay to you. Donnie was born and raised in Sonora, California, where his parents, Julie and Ken McNair, still reside, and his sister, Shelby. His brother David and his family live in Texas. He graduated from Sonora High School and began attending Chico State University to pursue an undergraduate degree in business administration with an emphasis in accounting. While earning his degree, he was an intern at Crow LLP, a public accounting firm, where he was offered a full-time position after graduation. After graduating magna cum laude from Chico State University, he began studying for the CPA exam and took a position with the Tuolumne County Department of Social Services as an accountant as he waited for his full-time position with Crow LLP. Mr. McNair then began working for Crow in late 2020, where he was able to complete the 4 sections of the CPA exam and attain his license as a CPA. During his employment with Crow, his work focused on financial statement audits for private entities, mainly in the tech and manufacturing industry. Additionally, Donnie focused on leadership opportunities such as assisting in the National Leadership Event, recruitment, and mentoring new staff. Mr. McNair worked for Crow for almost 3 years before he began seeking employment in his home county. In September of 2023, Donnie was hired as a Deputy Auditor Controller, and on April 7, 2024, he was promoted to the Chief Assistant Auditor Controller. During his employment with the county, he has focused on state controller reports, audits, new interface with OpenGov and Tyler, payroll, LAFCO budget, writing reports, supporting departmental and special district needs, year-end close, and many, many other things that they take care of in that office. Should the board decide to move forward with appointing Donnie McNair to fulfill the remaining term of the vacant auditor controller position, District Attorney Cassandra Janicki is here and will be available to swear him in immediately after the appointment, should your board take that action. And again, it's my honor to recommend to you that you would consider appointing Donnie McNair who is currently serving as your interim auditor controller, as the auditor controller to fulfill the remaining term of the vacant auditor controller position. And I know Donnie is here, should you have any questions and want to have a further conversation with him. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, and appreciate the overview. So I'll look to board questions first, starting with Supervisor Haff. Do you have questions at this point?
Actually, I don't.
Okay. And looking to the other members of the board. Questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions from the board. I don't have any myself personally. Excuse me. So I'm gonna put it out to public comment at this point. If anybody'd like to come forward and speak on this matter regarding the potential of appointing Donnie. So if so, please step on up. Good afternoon, Debbie.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Batista, and I have been or was the county clerk and auditor controller for the last almost 20 years. I hope I don't lose this. I've only lost it once, and that's when I was begging you guys to give the sheriff's office the ability to be able to give CPR instructions for somebody who has a heart attack, because my husband had a heart attack and died, and they couldn't give me the instructions. I hope that most people know how much I love this community and why I've stayed around and did things that I should have retired, according to my husband, 6 years ago. So I just want to tell the community that Donnie is the person that will be best served in this position. He definitely has the skill set. He definitely has some more skills than I have, definitely when it comes to technology. But he also really, which I think is one of the most important attributes that any of us public servants can have, and that is he really cares for this community, and he wants to do a good job. And he wants to not only help people, but also teach them how to fish and not just give them a fish. So I highly recommend that you appoint Donnie to this position and let him fulfill the rest of my term, or now it will be his term. The community, because I looked for 18 months, the community could not find a better person for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Additional public comment regarding this. All right, not seeing anybody stepping up here, so I'll bring it back to the board. And at this time for comments, and again, I'll start with Supervisor Haff. Comments this time, Supervisor.
Well, I am excited about your tenure here that you've just started, and I'm in total favor of you becoming our next auditor controller. It's a big job and involves a couple more hats than just auditor controller. But I'm encouraged by your background, and just let us know as the board if there's any help that you need that we can provide you. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Haff. Okay, looking to other members of the board. Supervisor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, Mr. McNair's reputation and his skills and the contributions he's made to the county during this transition, I think, show that he's up for the job. It is a very difficult job. I think you would. There aren't many people in our community that really know what an auditor controller does. I think that's a fair statement to say. And the fact that Mr. McNair is jumping in with both feet, he's dedicated to the community, he has deep roots in the community, he's got a whole cheering section that's taken up half of the room, so it proves that he is committed to the county. We're going to have times when you'll be able to give us good news. We'll have times when you'll have to give us bad news, but as long as we are communicating and working together in the shared interests of the commonwealth of our community, I think you'll do very well. So I'm very supportive of this appointment. I think you're going to do a fantastic job, and you have my support.
Very good, thank you. Supervisor Brandon.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. We have another young person in an elected leadership role. I think that's fantastic. I also just want to say, too, it's really a privilege when we have somebody that I think comes from our community, is able to go out, get educated, experience the world, and then be able to come back and serve. That's something that's important to me, and that the shared value of wanting to help your home and make a difference. So I appreciate you stepping up to this. You have, and I can't even count probably how many times you've heard this, but big shoes to fill. Debbie's been a force with the county, and somebody that everybody goes to for all kinds of advice on everything that's also, not her job, from not just financial stuff, but cemetery districts and I don't know, just about every other thing. But I'm really happy that you've got a great mentor to work for in that office, and that over this term, and that you'll be serving with faith and honor in Tuolumne County, and hopefully looking forward to re-election, which it's coming up. This is the one time you'll be able to get the job without having to run for it. So relish this period.
Thank you. Supervisor Kirk.
Yeah, when I got elected, I was the youngster. And then when Jaron got elected, he was a youngster. And now you're appointed and you're the new elected youngster. So congratulations. I didn't realize how young you was. But I don't really care how young you are. You meet the minimum qualifications. Debbie says good things about you. We had a conversation yesterday. So thank you for stepping up. The biggest thing for me, Donnie, moving forward is from this day on, we're appointing you, but you're elected, and you're going to run again, I'm sure, unless you get scared out of the position once she's gone. And thank you for sticking around. He said that you'll pick up phone calls and texts moving forward. So thank you for whatever help you can assist. But from this day on, it's yours. You own it. And just best of luck. If we can support you, absolutely. But my big thing is, there's budget, there's finance, and we kind of went through this last week. Just get us the information so we can make the informed decisions, and just help us work the issues, because we have some issues coming up. And so thank you for that. And let me see if I wrote any other notes down. Nope, you're young. I crossed that out. No, but thank you, Donnie, for I think it's cool that you're so young. There's going to be some commitment that comes with that, being invested in this community. So I think our community will be well served with you. So thank you.
All right, my turn. Are you sure you know what you're getting into? It's a tough job, absolutely a tough job, and at times rewarding, and many times frustrating, and dealing with a lot of issues. I can't understand how Debbie managed to go through that for the period of time that she did, because there's a lot of challenges, and it's rewarding. But there's also times that are very difficult and tough decisions to be made. As Supervisor Kirk said, you have the support of the board when need be, but also we're highly reliant upon you in that position to, help us and help the county as a whole in many, many ways. So it. Just looking ahead, I appreciate that you were, raised here, born and raised here, that you, left and came back, as Supervisor Brandon said. That's great. Too often, unfortunately, with our youth, they leave and we never see them again, at least back in the county at times. So it's a positive thing. So I'm very much in favor of moving forward with this appointment, and I would look to the board for a motion.
Chair, I'll move on staff recommendation to approve the appointment.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Supervisor Campbell, seconded by Supervisor Brandon, and we'll look for a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg,
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell,
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk,
Aye.
Supervisor Haff,
Aye.
Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
All right. So now we need to move forward with the second part of this is now that we have officially, as a board, approved this.
Raise your right hand to be sworn. I, Donald McNair,
I, Donald McNair,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
Against-
foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Welcome to the team.
So, Donnie, now that you've gotten through the swearing in, and just a little bit of a crackle in the voice. But that's good. This is huge. But we'd like to hear from you a few words, perhaps.
Yeah, of course. I want to start by thanking you guys for voting to appoint me. I take this really seriously. It's a huge opportunity. I don't take the responsibility lightly. I want to thank Debbie for recommending me to fulfill the remainder of her term. Although she definitely leaves huge shoes to fill, I believe the support and mentorship she's provided me and my past experience is going to set me up for success. I also want to express my gratitude for the staff in the clerk and auditor's office and the county staff as a whole. I've really appreciated it. It's been a privilege working with all of them, and I'm excited to continue doing so. I want to thank my friends and family members for supporting me for everything. And finally, I want to thank the county, the members of the county. I couldn't pick a better community to serve. Thank you.
So, Donnie, as we discussed, you will have board support, but there will be times, right? And there's be an expectation on the part of the board and part of all the staff that you bring us, those cold, hard facts. And sometimes they might not look so good for whatever reason, but we're counting on you to do exactly that. It's critical that you do that. And it's not always, the best times, when that happens, but it's necessary, that we hear from you as we move along in our relationship and do things. So congratulations and welcome aboard.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we will now move on to our 1:30 p.m. 2 appointment. And if the clerk could please read that item.
1:30 p.m. Number 2, presentation and discussion on a cost analysis for an independent county fire.
I'm sorry, I'll interrupt. Let's just give a couple of moments for the room to clear, and then we'll go ahead and read. I'm sorry.
Hey, Guy, we might have Tuolumne County's most eligible bachelor, too, if you want to run that. Oh, are you dating him? Oh, never mind. He's taken. Good guys go fast.
Did I lose my title?
Jaren's still available.
Oh, I see. A new 27, 28-year-old comes in. All of a sudden, everybody doesn't care anymore.
He makes more money than you and me combined.
That's fair.
Okay, we'll go back to...
I'll be the most affordable bachelor.
All right, we'll go back to if the clerk could please read our 1:30 PM too.
1:30 PM, number 2, presentation and discussion on cost analysis for independent county fire service delivery model compared to the current California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection CAL FIRE contract for county fire service.
All right, so we
Okay.
have a presentation here. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Board. Liz Peterson with the County Administrator's Office. The county has contracted with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, or CAL FIRE, as we refer to them, since 1977. This is for our services for our county fire department. Through our agreement, we receive emergency fire protection, medical and rescue response, dispatch services, and extended fire protection service availability, or as what we know as Amador stations. So under the current agreement, the CAL FIRE staffs 5 full-time stations as well as 2 Amador stations for part of the year. Furthermore, through the agreement, the county receives additional services such as dispatch, coverage for sick and injured employees, training, administration, and other services, which we'll get into a bit here in the presentation. These benefits are included in the full agreement that we have with CAL FIRE. The county, on the other hand, is responsible to provide, or for all costs associated with the property required by the CAL FIRE employees to provide the services that I just listed, including uniforms, personal protective equipment, or PPE as we refer to it, equipment, fire engines, and buildings. So while the county is very satisfied with the services it receives through the CAL FIRE agreement, this isn't really about emotion today. This is about cost effectiveness. And so, like all other county services, the cost for fire continues to increase. And so we felt like it was necessary and critical to analyze the county's fire service delivery model to determine if the CAL FIRE contract continues to be the best value for the community and for the taxpayers in Tuolumne County. Or if it might be more cost effective for the county to develop its own fire department utilizing county employees rather than CAL FIRE or state employees. So we hired an independent consultant through Capital Public Finance Group, that's Kathy here with me, to analyze the county's agreement with CAL FIRE, as well as to put together a few different models for what a county fire department might look like, and Kathy's going to get into those in detail. So attached to the agenda is a memo that Kathy put together with her analysis, and then she's going to go through a presentation today and really just giving you the options. Today, at the end of the day, we're going to be asking your board if you would like us to bring something back for the future that includes exploring a county fire department with county employees, or if you would like us to continue with our CAL FIRE contract that we have, in which case we would bring that. Well, yeah. So that's what we will be asking for at the end of the presentation, is just consensus around kind of next steps. But overall, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy here, and she's going to take you through her analysis that she put together.
And I'll just jump in briefly, just so that everybody's understanding. We're not making any decisions today. Okay. This is informational, very good. A lot of thought and effort has gone into this, and we appreciate that. It helps us as a board to make informed decisions in moving forward. So thank you. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So we will just start with some, I guess I should do it on here. I should use the mouse. So we will just start with some background information about kind of the current service delivery, just to set the stage for fire protection. We'll talk about the current CAL FIRE model and some economies of scale that you currently achieve by using the CAL FIRE model. Then we'll go into the analysis that Liz was just describing. We'll talk about the alternatives we looked at, but of course we're modeling scenarios. There's kind of an infinite number of options, but we wanted to give you some type of frame of reference, order of magnitude on the type of services that could be offered from a county employee model to provide you just with some information for making decisions moving forward. We'll then go into the comparison of the costs based on these models and the assumptions used in the models, and turn it over to you for questions and discussion. As always when I'm here, if there's something that just kind of pops up and you don't really want to wait till the end, you think it's more timely, go ahead and ask the question. If it's something we're going to cover later, I'll go ahead and just say, let's put that on hold, and I'll address that in a couple minutes if that works for you. So I have my notes on here actually. So let me do this. So we'll start with just the basics of the CAL FIRE contract. And that looks funny on there. CAL FIRE provides the Tuolumne County Fire Department with emergency medical rescue, extrication, structural and wildland fire suppression, fire life safety inspections, kind of the full range of fire services, and the emergency medical side. So I just want to put that in perspective. It's the full scope of fire protection and EMS services. For 23-24, I'll explain why we're using that year in a moment. There were 52 full-time equivalent employees funded by the fire department. 47 of those were through the CAL FIRE contract. So when we're talking about the analysis in a little bit, we'll be talking about the comparison of funding those 47 employees versus a county employee model, assuming that the 5 other employees, you're already paying for those services would continue in a future CAL FIRE model. So we're focusing on those 47 employees. For 23-24, that contract was about $9.145 million. And that you staff your stations through that, you provide fire support through that contract, as well as other agreements with Mariposa County and Columbia College. Just as a note, in that 47 positions, there are 19 positions that were added in March of 23 through a SAFER grant. That grant ends after 36 months. So as we're putting just this whole analysis into context, we are assuming that those 19 positions would be funded through the overall model in either scenario. Additionally, the county has about 20 volunteer firefighters providing service to county residents and businesses. And I think that has declined over the past few years. And that's not unusual. It's harder and harder to not only attract volunteers, but also with all the requirements that go into retaining volunteers and getting volunteers trained, it's just becoming a little bit more cost prohibitive to retain volunteers. I mentioned that we were using the 23-24 contract amounts. That is actually because the 24-25 contract amount is a little bit lower. Not necessarily going to be a trend, though. There are some one-time credits that are included in the contract. So because 24-25 is a little bit lower, it's somewhat artificially low for the CAL FIRE contract, we thought a better baseline to use would be the 23-24 figures. Just to think about it, typically the contract with CAL FIRE increases at about 5% a year. Seeing that decline raised some red flags. We think it's an anomaly because of those one-time credits. So it just wasn't the best number to use for a baseline. I got it. I'm now on track. Oh, but I don't like the titles. Sorry about that. So there are, I mentioned those 47 positions funded under the CAL FIRE contract. One, and I'm just going to go through them because, again, these are the positions funded under the contract. There's additional benefits you receive under the CAL FIRE contract, which includes positions. So we just need to understand what's funded under the contract, and then when we do the analysis, what would need to be how many positions would need to be hired in addition to what's in the contract. So we have 1 assistant chief, 1 battalion chief, 2 training or safety captains, 3.5 positions at the dispatch center, so 2.5 dispatchers and an office tech, 38.5 engine operation personnel, including fire captains, 17 fire apparatus engineers, and 13.5 firefighters. The 13.5 firefighters, that's actually because there are 6 positions that only are employed for 5 months out of the year. It results in about 2.5 positions. So you don't have partial people, you have partial year. And then there's 1 heavy equipment mechanic funded under that contract. Through the administrative cost component of that contract, the county actually receives the benefit of a fire chief, as well as backup staffing and support for all of the positions that are listed there. So we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So in order to create the same level of service, if it were going to be a county employee model, we would need to hire these positions, but also hire the positions that are funded through the administrative component of the contract. So when we go into the analysis and we're thinking about the service that we're receiving through that CAL FIRE contract, it's not just these positions that we would need to hire in order to provide the same level of service or a similar level of service. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that because I think it's a nuance to the analysis that's important to understand. At each fire station, we also have different staffing levels. So the fire department operates out of 12 different fire stations. 5 are staffed by career paid or paid fire staff. So I think that's something that we can talk about, I think the fire chief is here to answer some questions on that in a little bit, but the staffing level directly impacts the response, impacts the response time and the ability to respond with overlapping calls and actually just complete the fire service operations. So that model, if we were going to do a county employee model, we would assume that we are going to staff the same number of stations. So those 5 stations also are staffed with different numbers of personnel. You can see that 3 of the stations are staffed with 2-person engine companies. 2 of the stations are staffed with 3-person engine companies. And in a little bit, Fire Chief is going to kind of explain some of the importance of that staffing level and what it means for overall service delivery. So let's go into this current CAL FIRE contract because there are several economies of scale that you achieve by having this contract with this really large state agency that has several employees within their department, within the entire state. The big one is staffing coverage. So I talked about those positions that you directly pay for. And then I talked about the administrative component where you actually get the benefit of a fire chief, but you also get the benefit of firefighters. So let's say that some of your own firefighters are on leave, they're on vacation, they're responding to a fire somewhere out of town. You get the response from or staffing from CAL FIRE's own employees. So you may not directly be funding that firefighter, but they provide coverage in the event that your staff is not there. On the dispatch side, you receive the benefit of the full dispatch center. So CAL FIRE runs and operates a dispatch center for fire protection. They have the employees needed. They have a battalion chief. They have captains. They have people in there that can handle operations in the dispatch center. And they also, I believe, have a redundant dispatch center where there's a trailer that can be used in the event that the dispatch center is down. If you were going to have your own independent department, we need to think about the employees that we need to be hired to replicate that same level of service even through the existing dispatch center, just to make sure that they have the expertise to provide the same level of service as your existing employees. So when we talk about staffing, we're talking about staffing of the stations and we're talking about staffing of the dispatch center. So that's just important to understand that you're not just receiving the benefit of the direct 47 employees that you're hiring, you're also achieving coverage and you're achieving that full dispatch center. And I want to go back to the staffing real fast. On just a ratio basis, CAL FIRE uses a model where they staff 3.11 employees per station, and that's what's built into your 47 positions. But they also have longer shifts. They have a 72-hour work week. Typically, an independent fire district is going to have a 56-hour work week. So you would probably need to look at hiring about 3.25 persons per position. So you can see that there are some efficiencies in the CAL FIRE model because they can hire at a lower ratio because they have that backup that they can tap into in the event that there are some vacancies or leave. So those are just a couple of items on the staffing side. Training is another, as you can imagine, very important aspect of the fire service. And the training requirements for the fire service are significant. There's minimum standards for mandated by state law, by the National Fire Protection Association, by Cal OSHA, and essentially you need to make sure you're managing that training program properly. Otherwise, there's significant liability issues for a fire department. Right now, that liability is handled directly through CAL FIRE. If the county were going to handle it on its own, you would be responsible for those liabilities. You would have to develop your own training program to meet those minimum standards, and likely would need to include additional positions in order to staff that training program in order to obtain the same level of service as CAL FIRE. And I keep saying that. When you're going to see in a few minutes is we're going to do a model that shows the same level of service, but we're also going to show alternative models with a basic level of service. And I want you to understand some of the nuances of the difference between those models, because you may say, oh, we have the same staffing at the fire stations. What's the difference here? Why is that more expensive? Why is that cheaper? Well, because we're trying to achieve the same level of service with all these benefits in one scenario, and in another scenario, we're maintaining more of a basic level of service without all of these enhanced benefits. In addition to training the battalion chief, currently your contract with CAL FIRE includes one funded battalion chief position, but you receive the benefit of 2 additional battalion chiefs for coverage in the field that you do not pay for. In addition, the dispatch center has a battalion chief that handles the dispatch services. And again, you do not pay directly for that. Those are additional positions you may want to consider in an independent department. The administrative component is another big piece. Think about your own human resources department and what goes into employee administration. CAL FIRE handles all the hiring, all the personnel actions. They have the IT staff that helps in backup situation. They do administrative investigations, payroll. I mean, the list goes on. CAL FIRE also takes on all employee liabilities and claims, which, as you know from your own experience, can really add up. In an independent county model, the county would take on all of that administrative duties as well as the liabilities. Under retirement, under the CAL FIRE contract, the department pays for the cost of current employees. There's no cost for OPEB, which is kind of the retiree long-term health care, long-term disability liabilities. So once an employee retires, the PERS liability remains with the state, not with your department. The county actually does not offer post-retirement employee benefits, so that's something that would be a difference, and it would be something you may need to consider. Fuels reduction. So now we're kind of shifting away from staffing and talking about the operations. One of the services that CAL FIRE provides is fuels reduction, and the county receives the benefit of that. So CAL FIRE does not charge the county for fuels reduction program, and CAL FIRE employees actually operate equipment that was acquired by the county through a grant to complete the fuels reduction program. So you own the equipment, they staff the equipment, you don't pay for the staff. Fire investigations is another service that CAL FIRE provides the county at no cost. The investigators are peace officer standards and training certified law enforcement officers. If you did an independent county model, that would be something that could be taken on by the sheriff's office. So that's something to think about for fire investigations. And then finally, fleet maintenance. As you can imagine, fire service is very apparatus intensive. You fund one heavy equipment mechanic directly through the CAL FIRE contract, but you use their facility and their additional employees for repairs. So think about a time of emergency. Let's say that one of your apparatus goes down, and let's say it's in the middle of the night, and the employee is not on duty. There are other CAL FIRE employees that are on duty that would service the apparatus. If in a county model, you would need to make sure that you either have people on call or you're paying for overtime because you would not necessarily hire the same number of mechanics that they have at their facility. So that's just a quick overview of some of the efficiencies of the CAL FIRE contract. And I'm going to go through one more segment and then open it up for questions because I think Chief's behind me. And that's just this overview of the analysis because it ties into one more component of the fire service and fire delivery. And Chief, I'm going to actually call you up in just a second because we're going to talk about staffing models. And what I really think is important is for the board to understand and the community to understand the different fire staffing models and what they really mean from a level of service perspective. So I'm jumping into the analysis, but I'm then going to pause because this is directly related to the level of service that CAL FIRE offers under the contract, but it's really what you're delivering currently compared to alternative options that are available. CAL FIRE provides all of those, the laundry list of services to the county through these staff stations. We have 5 staff stations, and the question that we posed was, can those 5 staff stations be more cost effectively staffed by county employees instead of the current contract model? But it's not just that simple. I kept talking about with this summary, the level of service that CAL FIRE provides. Well, we could offer staff stations with a similar level of service as CAL FIRE, but we could also offer staff stations just at a different level of service. And that may be more comparable to what some of the independent special districts or independent fire districts in the area do. You could staff a station with a basic level of service and a 2-person engine company at each station. You could have 3-person engine company at each station. There's different options available. For the purpose of this model, we have looked at the 3 scenarios: the current level of service, a basic level of service with two-person staffing per station, two-person engine companies per station for each of the 5 staff stations. And then a third model, which is a 3-person engine company per staff station. But just putting those numbers forward, I don't think gives you a lot of context. Like, well, let's use 2. That sounds good. This is what it translates to. But it actually means something from the fire service. So I'd like to call up the fire chief that, number 1, can provide you with what the staffing levels mean, but also perhaps can help us respond to any questions you may have on some of those economies of scale that are achieved through that CAL FIRE contract. Chief, would you mind taking that?
Well, good afternoon, members of the board. Nick Cashy, Tuolumne County Fire Chief. So if I hear correctly, you'd like me to explain the 2.0 versus 3.0.
2.0,
and then
3.0.
Do we want to go to 4.0 staffing? Is that later
Explain
in the presentation?
the value of
Okay.
it.
So when we say 2.0 staffing or 3.0 staffing, it's a number of people that are on duty on the apparatus each day. A 2-person engine company is our minimum staffing level for CAL FIRE. And in fact, Tuolumne County Fire is a benefit of that staffing level due to the grandfathered-in agreement. Any new CAL FIRE agreement will have a 3.0 minimum, which are what our CAL FIRE state engines are staffed at. And the reason for that is the ability to accomplish tasks on the fire ground in a capacity that does it in a timely manner. When we look at 2 people on an engine, that is the absolute minimum. And with that, when you think about a structure fire, in order to make entry into a structure, you have to have 2 people in and 2 people out in order to be backup. That's a Cal OSHA law. Now, that being said, with a 4.0 engine company that pulls up on scene, they can make immediate entry into that structure. Now, if there's a known or confirmed rescue, then we are able to operate outside of that. But there's also several other things. I'll use a structure fire, for example. There's ventilation that needs to take place. There's utilities that need to be secured. There's several other things. In addition to that, the total number of personnel to be at scene of a structure fire as recommended by NFPA is pretty exponential at a staffing level in which I don't think any of our agencies in this county can provide. It's something that we strive for. So as we think about that, for Supervisor Goldenberg, if you go back in your career, you think of the 1.0 staffed engines in Tulare County, you're by yourself, and that's a huge safety component, right? Whether you have an accident at work or whether you're getting to a structure fire by yourself. And so with that, we evolved to the 2.0 staffing model, which again is a very minimum number of folks to accomplish work. You could take that to a medical aid call, you could take that to a vehicle accident call, and think of all the things that have to occur. That one extra body is at a 3.0 level is something that we strive for sure. And that's something, again, that CAL FIRE has adopted as its standard, not only for our state engines, but any new contract going forward.
Are there any questions from the board on just the staffing and those efficiencies that we talked about previously?
I'll look to Supervisor Half first. Do you have any questions? At this point, there will be plenty of opportunity for more.
No, I thought it was very well laid out. Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the board? Any questions at this point? Okay, let's continue.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Jim. So now let's move forward with the components of the analysis. So I've kind of got scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. Scenario 1 is providing that similar level of service as the current contract. Scenario 2 is that 2-person engine company model. Scenario 3 is a 3-person engine company model. Could there be a hybrid somewhere in the middle? Sure. This is just to kind of provide you with information. And also thinking about what the county would run. The county would run a career department. Career paid staff, could you operate with less than that? Sure. But the county is the agency that's the backup. The county is the agency that's called when there aren't enough firefighters responding in other areas. So keep that in mind. If we were running an independent special district with a smaller coverage area, maybe we would be able to consider alternatives, but we are assuming we would run a career department with competitive salaries and benefits. So in these 3 scenarios, we're looking at how many FTEs would be needed at each station. So remember the first look, we looked at what the station staffing was under the CAL FIRE contract. Some of the stations are 2.0 staffed, some are 3.0 staffed. For a 2.0 staff, you need to hire 6 positions. For 3.0 staff, you need to hire 9 positions. So that's really what you're looking at here. So on the scenario 1, 3 of the stations, we'd need 6 firefighters, and 2 of the stations, we'd need 9. In the 2.0 staffing model, we'd need 6 across the board. in the 3-0 staffing model, we need 9 across the board. That doesn't include any firefighters for coverage in the event of vacancies or leaves. Additionally, we would, in order to achieve a similar level of service, we need to hire a fire chief. Actually, in either scenario, we need to hire a fire chief. Remember, the CAL FIRE contract includes the assistant chief, and just the administrative cost component includes the chief's services. We would still want to have an assistant chief with a similar level of service. We would recommend 3 battalion chiefs, even though you're only paying for 1 right now. In the basic level of service, we'd be looking at 2. 4 training or safety captains in order to bolster up a training program to be comparable or somewhat comparable to what CAL FIRE offers. In a basic level of service, maybe 1 training safety captain. And then in a similar level of service, we are estimating we need 3 heavy equipment mechanics. In a basic, we'd still probably need to hire an additional 1 and have 2 heavy equipment mechanics. What's missing here is dispatch. After looking through what we would need to hire in dispatch regardless of the model, we think it would make more sense in any scenario to contract with CAL FIRE for dispatch services. The cost is estimated at about $650,000 per year. But due to the cost of hiring all those employees that would be needed to manage the operations out of dispatch, we just think it would be somewhat cost prohibitive. So we are not including, we're only including the $650,000 for dispatch services in the analysis. So when you look at each of the positions, this is just looking at positions, this is not looking at benefits, this is just looking at the salaries. Again, I mentioned we are looking for a career department, and we need to look at salaries of comparable counties. So we actually looked and did a salary analysis of Calaveras, El Dorado, Fresno, Merced, Nevada, Placer, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus counties to estimate what the salaries would be. Frankly, the salaries are actually a little bit higher in a couple of the positions, specifically fire chief, assistant chief, and battalion chief, and we actually brought them down a little bit to be more comparable with the salaries offered in your sheriff's department. So for the rest of the positions, we did use the salary analysis for comparable counties. Essentially, for the 51 positions in scenario 1, it would be about $5.2 million on just salaries. For the 37 positions in scenario 2, just about $4.1 million in salaries. And for the 52 positions in scenario 3, about $5.3 million in salaries. Again, there are 5 FTEs that are currently funded by the county already that are not included in this part of the analysis. In addition to the base salaries, of course, there are additional labor costs. And here's kind of a laundry list of all of those costs, including your insurance, medical and liability, and workers' comp. There's that dispatch cost, the $650,000. And then to run a department, there's some additional costs, the uniform allowance, training. Miscellaneous is kind of the just general operations that are not captured in one of those specific categories. And additional county staff. And you should be asking me, what in the world? What are you talking about, Kathy? But think about it. If you're going to run your own department, there's additional positions that you're going to need to hire in the county itself. Human resources is going to need a couple of positions. IT is going to need a position. County counsel's office will likely need a position. And then you're going to need some additional support in the fire department itself, an accountant and an admin position. So those are some additional costs that would be included, that are included in that additional county staff line item. I also want to talk about the fact that this is on day 1. And remember, we're using 23-24 as the baseline, so we're keeping it consistent with $23-24. But when you look at some of the insurance, there's no claims for a fire department on day 1. You don't have claims, the department didn't exist. So one of the things that's going to happen here is over time, the costs are going to escalate because all those insurance costs and retirement costs escalate. But the other thing that you need to think about that isn't just a true flat escalation rate is also claims. And you will be taking on a share of the claims over time, and that is going to probably rapidly increase the costs on some of the insurance line items, especially liability. Think about liability of running a fire department. There are just things that can happen where the claims will likely add up. That is not captured here in these numbers at this point. When we project on an ongoing basis, we're putting in some level of claims, but again, we don't know what that would be, so we're making some estimates. And I jumped the gun because here it is. So if we then project costs moving forward, the CAL FIRE contract is relatively contained. And because it's a statewide agency, there's a lot of economies of scale that enable the overall contract to stay contained. We are estimating about a 5% increase in the CAL FIRE contract each year. But then on your own model, we are actually escalating individual line items by different amounts. For example, we are including claims building up over time. So you see kind of in the between 24, 25 to 26, 27, the line kind of jumps up a little bit. That's because we're building in claims, because as that department exists, you're going to be taking on a share of the claims. And based on what we're seeing over in the sheriff's department, is that correct, Tracy? We are projecting the claims could reach about $1 million a year, then escalating moving forward pretty quickly. So that is built into that model. Over time, the independent county model does become more expensive because we don't have that overall cost containment that they're able to achieve on a statewide basis. So you can see under scenario 1, with that similar level of service, the cost increased over about $2 million differential after 10 years. In scenario 2, excuse me, that's scenario 2 must be a lot less. I'm sorry. In scenario 1, we're at about $5 million per year. I'm reading the wrong line item. The cost differential increases to about $5 million per year between the base model and what it cost to be in 10 years. For scenario 2, it's about $2 million differential, and scenario 3, it's about $6 million differential. So let's compare the costs overall. You've got the current CAL FIRE contract, that number in the top left column, $9,145,388 seems exact because it is. It's last year's cost. That is the comparison. So we are looking at comparing all the other numbers to that cost. If we were going to operate with county employees and provide that similar level of service, it would cost about $11.1 million. Again, that includes hiring all of those positions in order to achieve that level of service. But if we were going to operate 2-person engine companies, we're at about $9.5 million, a little bit closer to what that current CAL FIRE contract is. Scenario 3, with 3-person engine companies, we're higher than even that similar level of service model, but we still don't have all of those operational efficiencies. We have $11.8 million of estimated costs, but we don't have those additional battalion chiefs. We don't have all those additional training officers. So we would be a little bit more expensive and still not be able to provide a similar level of service. And then the bottom row is the estimated cost in 10 years, because I mentioned when you start adding in the increasing liabilities and the claims and just the overall costs of individual categories, there becomes more of a delta on an independent county model. So with that, Tracy, is there something else I want to make sure I mention?
Okay, so I just want to end with why did we bring this to your board? Your board is aware, and some of you more intimately. I've been with some of you to your districts regarding fire conversations. And we've also seen some criticism of why does the county not look at a county fire department. So we decided it was time we needed to look at that, and we wanted someone that was independent than our office to go in and look at that. I want to point back to a couple of things. Remember there was a time 10, 20 years ago where small communities could depend on volunteers. We have 20 volunteers right now for fire services, and we know that we just don't get the number of volunteers anymore. And then the escalation in our own. Right now, we know we don't deal with unfunded liabilities for the PERS safety element. Think about the number of employees we would be talking about in one of those models would be about the same number of deputies that you have on the street. So if you think about 10, 20 years from now what the unfunded liability might be, it gives you some perspective based on that last presentation that we gave to you. And then there's workers' comp and liability. We know we're not carrying any of that right now. So when they're making claims and then they're backfilling with staff, that's all part of what we receive. But those are real costs for us. So we had to sit down and really start projecting what that looks like. And I'll give you an example. In the sheriff corner cost center alone, not in jail, dispatcher, any of the others, the cost for liability and workers' comp, just for that one cost center, is $1.5 to $2.5 million per year. And again, as Kathy said, it's going to vary based on the number of claims and the severity of those claims that take place over a year, driving up both premiums as well as the share of costs that they have. Then I think the area that we would get the most criticism from our districts would be when it comes to salaries and benefits. We, based on direction from me, Kathy built the system on career level positions, very much like you have done with your sheriff's office. If we want to make public safety to include fire that is at a county department level, we're going to have to pay them competitively. However, as Kathy said, when she first sent it to me and I saw what her market rate was for chief and the battalion chiefs and the assistant, I was like, no, that person would make more than our sheriff and undersheriff. So we scaled it back. That's why they are benchmarked together. But they are under market. We know a lot of our employees are under market. All of that to say, we tried to bring you something that the board could look at and the community for comparison purposes. But because of those normal and customary costs that we incur as a public entity, it quickly starts driving up the cost for operations that we currently don't experience. And then finally, as we end this, part of this was also, we are currently operating outside of a contract with CAL FIRE. It terminated on June 30th. I've been working with the chief and assistant chief. We will bring it forward on August 6th because obviously we need to be in contract. But we're looking for some direction from the board. Does this help you with making decisions for the future? We have almost a 50-year relationship with CAL FIRE. And as you heard the chief say, if we were to leave CAL FIRE and then decide, say, 5-10 years that this model doesn't work, we can't afford it, the cost to get back into that relationship with CAL FIRE would be much, much higher. So I want to make sure that we put a lot of thought into this, and I know you would want us to as well. Is there other models you want us to look at, or does this suffice to let's move forward and continue working with our current partner to what the future looks like? And of course, there are various ways that we will continue doing that, but we're happy to answer any questions. And then while we're not looking for a decision, it is up for discussion. And then if anything you might want us to return to with a future board meeting agenda, that we can bring that forward should there be more information that you would like to see. And I don't know if there's anything either of you or the chief would like to add. No, so we're here to engage in conversation, answer questions.
Okay. So I'll start with Supervisor Hath again. Do you have any questions, Supervisor?
No, like I had said, it's pretty well laid out and it paints a really clear picture that we're getting a pretty good deal right now, even though it's very expensive. I don't see any other way to go but the model that we currently have.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. I initially was questioning why we needed to have the support, and I think it does come at a good time to kind of explain. It's healthy to reevaluate anything that we're doing to make sure that that is still the best option. I think what this shows is that it's something maybe we've taken for granted, but it kind of proves that, is that CAL FIRE is a very cost-efficient model for the services that are provided. They've been a very long time and integrated partner within Tuolumne County and all of our services. It's a higher level of training. It's recruitment without risking the vacancy rates that we see and that with a lot of other in-house entities. And it also maintains a lot of the future costs. And so in addition to this higher level of service and all this backfilling of resources and all the other benefits, it's something that's more cost efficient. The fact is things cost money. And that's kind of the underlying issue is we have, and I think Supervisor Campbell said this in the past, we have a very, during the budget, higher expectations than probably ever of the services want to be provided, and yet sometimes a real lack of willingness or acceptance that these things cost money, that the people serving those jobs are paid, and that they're in a market where they are, the same as anybody else, able to move through positions. That equipment, which has increased in complexity, but also the use and efficacy, that has been increasing as a cost too. And so we get a higher level of service, but that's creating an expectation, and that hasn't met the realities of our financial stuff. So just to throw in too that, at least what I've seen, and this has been in the past 3.5, full years of time, and it really seems that the era of volunteer stations and a lot of the more traditional districts that many in particular of the foothill counties relied on, it's just not practical anymore. Even of those volunteers there, I would ask how many are under 60, right? And I don't mean that to be offensive, because it's great that they're continuing to serve, but we're simply not seeing the economic environment, maybe it's the cultural environment, whatever it is, of people wanting to step up and do that at the same level that they used to. And we're not expecting that of other services, to have volunteer peace officers. We're not expecting to have volunteer road workers. It's an unreasonable expectation. I do see that all the time online. Why can't it just be like 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Because it's not 30 or 40 years ago. That's just a sad reality of it. We also are dealing with a much higher fire risk than historically. We haven't seen much of an increase in the county fire system since this decision of who do we, what model do we pursue was basically done in 1974. So that's been 50 years. We've added one that was in Jamestown as a hybrid. Only recently have we seen with Groveland, Columbia, and Monte Vista, 56, basically an increase that is expanding coverage within the area. And the truth is, I think to anybody watching with that, all three of those new stations too are at risk, and that's a frank reality. We have, as mentioned in here, a grant for 36 months that has provided additional protection and staffing and funding, and that's great. And there's no regrets about, I think, accepting that. And I had to present in Columbia there too, and said, look, this has been a 30-year coverage gap that now, through unfortunate circumstances, we've been able to address professionally staffed, and it's a huge benefit to that community and the entire region to have that response gap filled. But it's not mission accomplished. We're not over the finish line on it. We have a station. We have the board here that I think has really prioritized fire. We've put money into the things that people care about. And yet it still lacks the sustainable funding that 4 years after we chose that plan was destroyed in 1978. And we've never fixed that underlying issue. So for what we expect as a community and what level of risk tolerance I think we have for having minutes slower response, fewer engines being able to go to a fire, something getting out of control, not having medical response as fast as somebody would like, I think that the only way is we have to support sustainable revenue. And we've got something on the ballot to basically support that. I won't go too much into it, but only to say the decision to invest in this and show its importance is there. This shows, I think, the financial efficacy of the decision. The only thing that remains to be determined is, are people willing to pay for what they want when they have to call during that emergency? Or do we just hope that everybody gets lucky, right? And there's no calls into the future. I know that I am willing to pay more when it's a good return on investment, when it's something that keeps me and my friends and my family safer. So I know I monologued a bit there, but it was a great presentation, and I hope a lot of those people who are discussing that, it's valid questions. I hope they watched and learned from it too.
Supervisor Cook.
Sorry, we're doing questions right now?
Yeah.
I think, one of the questions I have was I was trying to write it down. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. On slide 13, there were some scenarios. We did scenario 1, 2, 3. I was scratching my head trying to figure out why would we include scenario 1? I mean, similar levels. Am I misunderstanding? Isn't scenario 2 the model that we have to provide the 2-person fire engine? And sorry for my.
We were trying to give you a comparison with a similar model or the contract you're getting right now and what it would cost you. That's all that was for. It's just so you could look at similar to what we're getting right now. What would it be if that were a county model? That's all that's for.
Okay. And then on slide 14, all those numbers that we came up with, sorry, was this an average? You said you guys looked at different communities or different Was this an average of all those? Is that included?
We actually went individual category by category. So to the extent that we didn't have county information that we could use, we did take the counties that I listed and use their information for kind of ratios of overtime and what the reimbursed overtime would be and the leaves. But we specifically included your costs for things that we knew, like your cafeteria plan and your insurance. So each individual line item is, if you had information we could use at the county, we applied it. Otherwise, we used the various counties that we included in the salary analysis.
Okay.
And yes, it was an average of those.
Gotcha. And then one thing that I was thinking about when you guys were presenting this was on the costs. Was it taken into consideration? Like, I don't know how they do it in Calaveras County or other counties, but obviously, and maybe this is where I'm getting mixed up, but if there's certain districts and then they were to become a countywide model, don't some of those fire districts have revenue streams, and do those revenue streams get included into that county model? And if that was the case, would this have taken that into account? Because I know we have several districts, and if we were to go a countywide model, I assume that all those revenue streams would be absorbed. Did that take this into account at all?
We did not include annexing in any existing special districts. We actually assumed that they would continue separate operation. If we were going to annex them in, we would look at mostly their property taxes or their revenue stream. They may have a couple of small, maybe grant revenues that might be limited in term. Typically, some of the special districts are operating whatever level their tax base will allow. Because they were likely all volunteer fire districts back in 1978 when the property tax distribution was set, what I usually find with special districts, and I actually work with a lot of fire districts in California, just independent fire districts, their property taxes do not keep pace with a career department. They're usually having to augment it with special taxes or assessments. This model does not take that into consideration because we were not going to bring those departments in this model.
Okay. So and this might be not a fair question to ask you, but what you're seeing maybe in other parts of the state is when there's county models, they don't absorb those districts. It's hit miss.
They look at it. So I think I would say that's an overtime.
Okay.
Usually you're not doing all of it at once. So if you're going to take on the county employee model, that's the first step. Then once you've established the model, then you're looking at annexations. That goes through the traditional LAFCO process, and there would be a feasibility analysis that looks at the revenue streams of those independent special districts and makes sure that if you're absorbing them, there's not a cost impact to your own department or frankly to theirs. Can you maintain that level of service? Typically in that situation, they would maintain some of their augmented revenue streams, but not necessarily.
So if we continue down the CAL FIRE contract model and local districts wanted to be annexed into this model, is that a possibility to take those revenue streams and apply it towards this to bring costs down?
Yeah. So if you had independent districts that would fit the staffing model for CAL FIRE. So keep that in mind. So if you do not have career staff departments, that could become a problem because they may only have that funding that supports volunteer or an augmented volunteer or a stipend type. It depends on what it is. So I would say that's very independent. That analysis would need to be done of each individual special district, but there's nothing in the CAL FIRE model that precludes an annexation of special districts.
Okay.
And that feasibility analysis of that would look into the revenue stream of that special district.
Okay. All right. That's it for my questions. Thanks.
Supervisor Campbell.
And kind of along the same lines, you may have answered this, but if you did, I didn't pick it up. That's kind of where my mind was at, is that the only way something like that would work is that all special districts, everything within Tuolumne County would be unified under one umbrella, and that would improve the cost,
On the revenue side?
Yeah, the cost of doing it would be spread out more evenly, but it sounds like what you're saying is that it wouldn't, that it would actually cost more the more areas you're bringing in because that tax revenue is not enough to offset the additional cost of providing those services.
Yes, that's a yes and a no. As you remember, like when we did the feasibility study with the fire feasibility where we have, I forget how many fire stations, where we talked about it, you wouldn't need that many. Could you condense staff? So it's the yes and no. Right now, this is only based on the number of stations the county has right now. It doesn't include doing anything extra. So yes, there's times if we didn't have to,
So
if you were to,
if every special district got rid of their fire station and just went with the current existing Tuolumne County fire stations, that's the only way that it would be a cost savings? Or
No.
even then, you're saying that wouldn't necessarily be a cost savings?
yeah, go ahead.
So typically, the way we would look at that is you do a standards of cover study, and you would do a county-wide standard of cover study, and it would say this is where we would need the fire stations located in order to provide an adequate level of service, and here's the response times. In that study, it would identify whether all of those independent special district stations are needed, a proportion of them, and then you would actually look at what it would take to staff those stations at a career staff level. That's how we would fit it into a CAL FIRE contract. If you were going to do an independent county model with only like a 2-0 staffing, that would lower the overall cost and may generate some efficiencies. But I still don't know, because I didn't look at it, on whether those independent special districts actually get enough tax revenue to even support a 2-person engine company.
Well, and some of them only support enough for apparatus. They can't even pay for staff.
And that's my guess.
For the tax that they
And I
assess.
guess your standards of coverage would also go down, because then you'd be stretching your.
Because you'd be stretching thin.
Okay.
But
And
some
so
of
your
the things,
response times
some
go
of the
up.
assessments that were passed aren't even, they specifically are only for like equipment only. So, yeah.
And this is all disregarding the fact that some of the special districts might not want to be.
Yeah, we're all assuming that everybody will take their hat off and wear one hat, but that'll never happen.
So this is all theoretical at this point, so.
Okay.
Okay, I've got a few questions. Chief, maybe if you could come back up to the podium, please. So I've got a few general questions, and later on I'll have additional comments. For a fire department operation, firefighting is a big business. It's an expensive business. It's very necessary, very expensive, to provide. Can you give a rough idea of when you're looking at personnel versus other costs in running a fire department, what percentage roughly would be attributed to personnel costs? Usually pretty high, but kind of like to.
Yeah, I don't think I can give you an exact percentage, but I would want to venture to some agencies I've heard is a 90% personnel, 10% operations in regards to budgeting items. So personnel is our most expensive cost, for sure, by far, and I think every fire department would probably agree there.
Exactly, and I was thinking at least 80%, so that's in line with my own thoughts. On our volunteer firefighters, I heard a number of 20 today, which is actually an improvement over some recent numbers. Is that an accurate number? I heard at one point we were down under 10, and I'm kind of.
Yeah, without Chief Murphy here today to give you an exact number, I'm sorry I can't provide that. One thing I can tell you is that Chief Murphy and myself are in constant dialogue regarding volunteers that aren't making the minimum call response or issues in training and things like that. And so the ones that we do have that are rostered, that are fully qualified to respond, I mean, we can't thank them enough for what they provide for us. But as those training requirements and the needs for the minimum continue to increase in California, it's hard for folks to be able to keep up with that. And so it's really the dedicated ones, which I believe is why that number is somewhat lower.
Yeah, definitely. And Supervisor Brandon kind of pointed to it a little bit, number of firefighters under age, let's say 60. And I know that, Tuolumne County Fire's made some exceptions to what would normally be not so much considered, i.e. allowing some of our older generation firefighters that have a wealth of experience to be water tender drivers and stuff that, feel in a critical need, but they're not necessarily available to do other things that we would normally expect of many firefighters. So personnel costs, obviously very high up there. Just a general question on fire-going apparatus, primarily looking at engines, water tenders, frontline equipment in the neighborhood of 25, 28 or so. Is that? I know there's a lot more different apparatus. There's utilities. There's a lot of different pieces of equipment in the fleet, but.
I think one thing this board has done in its tenure is given the funds to update our fleet significantly. I mean, it's been hugely appreciated. And you can see with the quality apparatus that are out there on the front line piece there. So the age of the fleet has gone up, and we think we're still waiting on some of those engines to finally take delivery of. But by far, that support there is huge. But with that new fleet, it's one thing, as it ties into maintenance, something to think about. One thing that we've noticed over time is that the more technology that's involved on these apparatus requires somewhat more attention when issues do happen. And that's where that fleet maintenance that was spoke of earlier really comes in regards to having that depth to deal with those things. If you were to go to Altaville shop right now, you would see almost as many Tuolumne County engines coming in and getting routine maintenance as you do state engines.
Yeah, there's a blessing to having a newer fleet, but there's some things that come up. But there's a lot of things that are there, and especially for employee safety with the newer apparatus. I mean, they're a long time having an airbag in a piece of fire apparatus was not very, often that you saw that. When we look at the staffing levels, and just for clarification, and for our viewing audience and, people in the room, when we look at, some of the charts that had staffing at 2.0 or 3.0, we had an opportunity with the SAFER grant that provided funding for the 3.0. But, typically, as of right now, and understanding that CAL FIRE is looking to increase to 3.0 on new contracts, going forward. But is that the primary reason for the differences in some engines being staffed 2.0 or 3.0?
That is correct. The SAFER grant engines, we specifically asked for the 3.0 staffing model in order to bring that up. One thing that has occurred in regards to shifts, and I just want to tie this into staffing if you don't mind, was the mention of the 72-hour work week with CAL FIRE, which has been reduced to 66 hours. Now, the one thing that has proactively taken place in order to accomplish that 66-hour work week, the reduction in hours for the employees that we currently have, was total number of positions within county fire contract to accomplish that, which we currently have. So we are actually able, once bargaining is completed with the labor union, to be able to go to the 66 without an increased number of employees. So the impact to the county would not necessarily be there financially, which I know is a question that we've addressed in the past.
Right. No, that's a very good point. Let me look through here as far as questions. That's all the questions I have for now. I'll have additional comments, certainly. So at this point, I'd like to look for public comment. And we would encourage people in the room, if they have comments that they would like to make, to please come forward now and do so. I'm not seeing a rush to come up to the podium here. This, as we discussed, I mean, we're in a fact-finding mission here, right? And to figure out where to go and to try and look at the alternatives, look at the costs, look at them in a way that enables us to make decisions that are better informed and ones that are critical, for the safety of our public, for being able to get fire engine crews out there to the scene in a reasonable amount of time. And we've recently taken steps as a board, to look at that. Response times is very, very important. So now I'm gonna go back to comments with the board, and I'll look to Supervisor Half again first, being as she's off-site here. Supervisor Half, do you have some general comments you'd like to make?
Well, I kind of jumped the gun there. I actually gave my comments already. Didn't have any questions, so I'll stand on what I said originally. Thank you.
Okay. So returning back to the other board members, additional comments, Supervisor Kirk?
Yeah, I'll close out just by saying I remember when I got on the board, I tried to tackle this issue my first year, and around to a lot of different districts and spoke with people and read a lot of reports. And at the end of it, I realized I was getting nowhere really quick. But the reality of it is we're getting pressure from the community, and we have made fire our number one priority. And I do appreciate the fact that the longevity things we're not paying for, like purse fix and all that stuff, but I will be honest and just say, I think one way or another we're going to pay for it with the contract. I don't think the state really wants to lose money on it. But with that cost also comes a depth of apparatus and people, and quite frankly, the new economy, or what is my new economic development plan is don't burn down. And I think our best chances are taking lead, working with CAL FIRE, having a good partnership, and keeping true to that vision. And I don't know what the future predicts, but things aren't getting cheaper. So as things get tight within our community, and if people want to annex and jump on board, we're just not. I gave up 3 years ago and said I'm not gonna wait anymore. And I know Tracy had the same idea. Like, we can't wait. We have to just. It's so important. Maybe if we didn't have rimfire and all these other fires, I'd probably be less reluctant. But that's not the world that we live in, and that's not the fire seasons that we're a part of. And so I appreciate the information, but I know where I want to do moving forward, and that's just let's keep doing business with CAL FIRE. Let's keep from burning down. And I would like to put CAL FIRE out of business if I could. I mean, go to the state and buy about 20 airplanes and just drop crap on these fires immediately. But that's a whole nother conversation. So I appreciate the folks at CAL FIRE, and they are our neighbors and people within. And if people out in the community don't like it or think it's too much, I usually end up finding out that those people are working in the districts or related to somebody who does. And so everybody has their own angle. And so my angle is, I don't know anybody. I'm not related to anybody in fire. I just don't want Tuolumne County to burn down. And this is my best option moving forward. So if you don't like it, too bad.
Before I move to Supervisor Campbell, I'll make a brief comment. If you look at any given day, if you had even a fairly small fire, but active fire, and you look at the cost of the air resources on that day, it's incredibly high. And that's, we're not talking about that here, but it's just part of the whole big picture, here that what it takes. So Supervisor Campbell, please.
Thanks, Chair. Well, I just want to thank the team for a very comprehensive report that I think lays out a lot of the things that we have talked about and maybe have known for a while but haven't been put together in things that we guessed were true, but now we have proof. I also really have to thank Chiefs Cashy and Torres for being here. They have been awake since before 1 a.m., and so anybody doubting their commitment to our community, they are here. They've been up for longer than I would like to be because they're dedicated. And I think that this keeps getting brought up again because it's a big ticket item and it's one big, we pay like twice a year. There's like 2 chunks that we pay every year. And so that tends to get pulled out. But if we look at nickel and diming it into a county agency, this is pretty clear evidence that, while none of any of those particular none of those particular costs by itself is going to be more than the contract, all of them together absolutely will be. And even if we look at consolidation, all these other options that people advocate for, it could help, it could not help, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be more expensive and then a lower quality of coverage. And the fact is that there have been destructive fires in Tuolumne County for its entire history, as long as there have been permanent settlements in Tuolumne County. They've been being built and burned down and built and burned down. That's happened several times throughout our county. Every generation thinks that they have discovered that fire safety is important in our county. And we all think that we're the first ones to think of this, but we're not. It's been a staple. And so in that light, I think we have 2 options. The first option is that we have to make significant investment in fire safety. It's very costly. That's just a fact of providing fire safety. It is costly, involves heavy equipment, involves highly trained individuals. there's really not a big way of getting around that. There are ways we can make it more efficient, and I think we're working on that. But that's the first option. The second is that we can accept that every so often one of our communities is going to burn, that there's going to be property destroyed, and that lives are going to be lost. Option two is not an option for me, and I don't think it is for anyone else on the board. And so looking at ways to make ourselves more efficient, I think, is our only option. And I think we have a pretty good idea of what the most efficient option is from the work that you've done here today. And the last thing I just wanted to point out is that your model assumes that we will continue with this. If we were to go to a county fire agency, it assumes that we would maintain the same level of service that we have now. But I think history has shown us that when there are pressures, whether they be political or economic, on the Board of Supervisors or on our different local departments, that they're going to be cut. And so what will happen is, hey, maybe we can save 100,000 here, 100,000 there, and then 10 years down the road, we're going to have a completely underfunded fire agency looking at ways to fix the problem that we created ourselves, just like what happened with our sheriff's office. And so this way we're able to, with a contract, it's a set cost, it's a very high cost, but at least we know what it is, we can plan, and we know that we're going to be maintaining that level of service at a consistent rate without having to tear it apart piece by piece and then spend the extra money in the long run to rebuild it. Once we've had, unfortunately, a reason to do that, which would be another destructive fire. So those are my thoughts on it, and I really appreciate this presentation. I think it's a lot of information that I had kind of gleaned over the years and assumptions that I had kind of made, but having the data to back it up is really useful.
Supervisor Brandon.
I think I already talked too much in the beginning. Only to echo the comments of my colleagues, and I think the idea of that's what really this is presenting, and what's coming up is we have options. We have the options of, with this increasing risk, where we've been with the risk of a place burning down or a response call not being quick enough, or that we've made, I think, as much as a board really can do, investments in fire. And that's going to be placed before a lot of folks to see whether we want to sustainably fund that. So anyway, I agree with the comments of my colleagues. I like the don't burn down philosophy. I like option one. I like the service that we've gotten from CAL FIRE so far, and I like the presentation, I think, justifying some of those decisions we've made.
All right, so I'll close out with a few, excuse me, comments. This is not about, we're looking for information, again, to make an informed decision. And, during my own career with CAL FIRE, I saw contracts, counties and other jurisdictions that had contracts with CAL FIRE that ended those contracts at times, and then new contracts have come on, throughout the state at times. Of those that left and formed their own county fire departments, some of them worked well. Some of them had very distinct, troubled times, and it took quite a number of years, to get through that. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's just that, that's a fact. Firefighting, all risk, when we talk about all risk in a fire department, any imaginable emergency call, these firefighters, your frontline firefighters, are going to be responded to. Sometimes on their own, sometimes in conjunction with law enforcement, depending on the type of call. When we look at the distinct lack of volunteers, when I was, so I was a fire captain here for CAL FIRE in the Tuolumne Calaveras unit from 1982 to 1995. And at that time, we had a pretty robust, very active group of volunteers. We had easily around 100 or a little bit more volunteer firefighters. And here now, Even 20, I think, is a little bit ambitious right now. I think it might be a little less. And the ones that we have, some of them are limited in their, not because of what they want to try to do or not. It's just that, when we recently celebrated, the fire department celebrated, personnel with 25, 30 years as a volunteer firefighter. That says, a lot for what they've given to the communities. There's so many different, facets, to this. And so having this discussion is very important. And I think, at this point, the information speaks for itself largely. Sure, there might be a few points in the document that I might argue about whether or not that would be the best, number. Do we really need that many people or not? Sometimes you look at, I'd like a battalion chief for my fire department. Well, in order to achieve that, if you want a battalion chief there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the year, you got to hire over 3 battalion chiefs in order to provide that. And so there's a cost, for all that. So, sometimes people look at that and go, why do you need, 3 battalion chiefs? Well, you're not just covering one shift, right? You're covering the whole thing. So, again, there's a few points here and there, there's some fine tuning, but that's a later thing, right? Right now, this presentation was excellent and appreciated, and I don't have anything further at this point. This was, I am obviously, very comfortable understanding of the CAL FIRE contract and the systems, having, worked in that for my own career. However, there's just a lot of things that we've still got to, figure out and move towards. Where are we going in the county overall, the bigger picture? We're talking, a portion here. We still have work to do, to figure out if we're going to look at and discussions, to be held with different fire districts, other fire agencies, City of Sonora, and what have you. So, but when there's a, couple of key points that make a huge difference in costs and in trying to figure out how to safeguard the county against future costs that could spin out of control pretty easy. And the areas that come up and a big advantage to having the state contract, workers' comp issues is huge. PERS liability is huge. There's many other facets of benefits that you get from the contract, depth of resources. If you have a smaller department and somebody's, for whatever reason, they're sick or they get injured, they can't make it in, they have a hard time sometimes, being able to staff up our emergency apparatus in the manner that, we need. And we don't need it later on today or tomorrow. We need it now. And so they have that depth and ability to do that with that bigger, robust system. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you very much for the presentation. Do you have enough information from what you've heard from our board today, CO Riggs, to...
Yes, what it sounds like is you're good with the model that we have right now. We don't need to explore any other models, and then I will bring the next term of the contract for CAL FIRE on August 6th so that we can get that approved, since we're operating outside of a contract right now.
And beyond that, we absolutely do need to have the further discussion on where we're going with fire service as a whole.
That will continue. This is just meant to put to rest
This
one way
is-
or other.
right.
Which model are we really going to pursue into the future?
Exactly. So thank you very
Thank you.
much. We appreciate the time and effort that went into preparing this and presenting to us today. We're going to take a 10-minute break till 3:15, and then we'll move to our next item. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We will resume our Tuolumne County Board meeting for July 23rd, 2024. And we have one final item on the agenda, which is our 1:30 p.m. 3, and if the clerk could please read that item.
1:30 p.m. number 3, public hearing to consider number 1, adoption of resolution 6224 for the general plan amendment updating the 2024-2029 housing element. Number 2, approval of the addendum to the final environmental impact report prepared for the 2018 general plan update.
All righty, thank you. And thank you. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Now, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Board. Tamara Blankenship, Housing Development Specialist with the Community Development Department. I'm joined by Amy Sinsheimer today. She's with PlaceWorks. PlaceWorks, the consulting firm that was contracted with to complete our housing element update. So especially for the benefit of the public, I'll provide an overview of the housing element and the process we've been through, including the schedule. Today, I'm really going to focus on the comments from HCD since their review and since the last time you reviewed this document in December. And I'll talk about the changes that have been made since that time, and then we will be looking for your board to take action. I like to start with the end. This is the recommendation and the action that we're asking for today. We're asking that the Board of Supervisors approve the addendum to the EIR pursuant to CEQA, adopt the 2024-2029 Tuolumne County housing element, and direct staff to submit the housing element to HCD for certification, which is the final step. So just a quick update. The housing element is one of the 8 mandated elements of the county general plan. It must be updated every 5 years. We are in the 7th cycle planning period. That's the 2024 or 2029 cycle. And the adoption deadline is June 30th. We do have 120 days from the statutory deadline to get that completed. So we're doing okay. I want to talk a little bit about the housing element in terms of our overall housing strategies. I've come to you for several different things over the last year, so I just want to put these in context together. The housing element is required by state law, and the elements, the things that we're required to cover and include and achieve in the housing element, are prescribed and they are dictated in state law. So this is really a required document to be in compliance. Pro-housing designation, I've brought that to you, and this board's been very supportive of our efforts in pro-housing. And that's really it's a voluntary plan, but it's really our local plan. And it's our more aspirational plan about what we want to do and what we're going to do specifically to achieve our local housing goals. Many of those things have already been achieved, as we discussed when I brought the last pro-housing item to you recently. But it describes our future actions that we're going to take, and that's really to go above and beyond state law and above and beyond what's required for the housing element. And then we really see the next step as doing an update to our land use element in the general plan to really enshrine and memorialize the direction that we're going with housing, and to take these strategies and actions that we've taken, the direction of this board, and to make sure that it's memorialized in a way in land use planning in the future that we can continue long term with the path that we're on. So just a review of the process. We started in May. I think the first meeting for this, the kickoff meeting, was my first week of work in this position. So it's been a process. You saw the public draft in December. We submitted at that time to HCD, and in March they responded with their comments. We've been working with HCD and revising the draft at each juncture. The revised draft has been placed on our website for public review. We received on July 10th a letter from HCD of conditional compliance, meaning they were satisfied with the document as it's currently written and that it meets all of the requirements. At this point, we're looking for adoption of the housing element, and once it's adopted, we will submit to HCD for certification. So this is just a review of the tasks. It's been a process. I'm not going to read through those, but I do want to take us more to the finish line here. Like I said, we did receive the letter from HCD on July 10th, and I want to point out that last week the Planning Commission did vote to recommend adoption of the housing element and the CEQA addendum. Just as a reminder, the RHNA, our Regional Housing Needs Allocation for this cycle, was 2. So pretty low bar. But in addition to the RHNA, the housing element does strongly focus on our responsibility to affirmatively further fair housing. So many of the programs, policies, outcomes that you see in the document are related to our responsibilities to affirmatively further fair housing, in addition to meeting our RHNA. So like I mentioned, I'll focus on HCD's review and the changes that we made to address their comments. I organized these in order of the document in case anybody's following along, and I highlighted the sections that had revisions. And I'll address those in order, starting with the programs. So I've listed the programs that had revisions to them, some like 3B and B. It was very minor. It added a timing commitment indicating that we would take action every other year to identify commitments. But others like 3BG, the water and sewer priority, is a new program that's been added. That's to make us consistent with state law. And Amy pointed out that that's been state law since 2005, and for whatever reason, it was not included in our previous housing element. We were out of compliance. This will put us in compliance, and we do need to have this program here. And it requires us to reach out to our water and sewer providers, provide them with a copy of our housing element 30 days after adoption, and there's a requirement for water and sewer providers to have written protocols for prioritizing connections for affordable housing units, and we'll work with our partners to accomplish that. 3CC does have some Title 17 revisions. We just did a big update. There's a few very technical requirements for certain aspects of the code that we need to make sure that we're consistent with state law, and that will be a small, I say small, that'll be a cleanup thing that we'll bring. It'll have its own public hearing, its own noticing and everything to make those changes. Those would be amendments to the ordinance code. Program 3EB, they asked for more information there, and so we did add some additional activities, including working with our Transportation Council, supporting water infrastructure in the Jamestown area through our REAP 2.0 grant, really working cooperatively with economic development and the work that Robbie's been doing around supporting the place-based strategies in town centers, which we feel is very complementary to our housing efforts. So we're happy to continue to support that effort, and to update the county's open space element by January 2026. This is required by state law, but it does help us ensure that we are planning for high quality outdoor spaces and recreation opportunities for all of our residents in the future. And these programs, making sure that we are working with developers and builders to add accessibility features to make sure that we have more and more units coming online that are accessible to anyone who might have physical disabilities, mobility issues. And then 3FB is really working on opportunities for seasonal and workforce housing. And these programs are all things that, that we are doing and that we are part of what we're doing, and it better describes the efforts that we're already making in order to comply with what HCD is looking for. The rest of the changes that I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to read them all because they're really where HCD said we want to see more discussion or more evaluation or more detail. They weren't substantive changes of any of these sections, just areas where they wanted us to add more information and more detail, and we did that. So we listed these out here. So the review of the previous housing element, they were looking for some additional discussion. We added information about our public participation efforts. There was expanded discussion and additional analysis around our housing needs assessment. We listed here all the specific areas where they said, tell us more, and that's been done in the subsequent revised drafts. And affirmatively furthering fair housing, again, adding on that discussion, adding additional analysis. None of the revisions that were added changed the analysis or changed the conclusions that were being drawn, just added more information. And some of that, in some cases, was adding kind of local data and knowledge in addition to all of the data analysis that PlaceWorks did. And constraints, again, adding more detail, adding to the county's review process for multifamily residential projects. And by the time we did this, Title 17 had been, the overhaul of Title 17 had been adopted. So we were able to add a little bit more detail that's more relevant to what the process will be moving forward. And looking at some of the changes the county has made since we started this, including the implementation of OpenGov, our online permitting system, and our adopted objective site and design standards. And then the final section in the constraints, this relates back to program 3CC that I mentioned in the Title 17 revisions. And there just are specific changes that we need to make to our ordinance code related to emergency shelters, single room occupancy, reasonable accommodation, and residential care homes and facilities. And these are just specific requirements that we need to make sure that we're meeting in each of those ordinance code sections. And so part of our actions that we'll be taking will be to work on those to become compliant. So moving on to the environmental review, an addendum to the general plan EIR has been prepared and was determined to be the appropriate environmental document. The addendum looks at the existing EIR is adequately addressing the potential physical impacts associated with implementation. The housing element doesn't rezone anything, it doesn't develop anything, it doesn't authorize building anything, it really doesn't have any impacts beyond, and especially beyond what is in the general plan. And the addendum finds that the 7th cycle housing element would not trigger any of the conditions described in CEQA, calling for further environmental review. So that brings me to the end. The recommendation and what we're looking for today would be approving the addendum to the general plan final EIR, adopting the 2024-2029 housing element, and directing staff to submit the housing element to HCD for certification. And I think that I mentioned that last week the Planning Commission did vote to recommend that you take that action as well. And we're here to answer any questions that you have.
Alrighty, thank you. I'm going to do a little switch up. Instead of going to Supervisor Half, I'd like to go to Supervisor Brandon due to your involvement in this area.
No, I got a lot of questions about housing. I appreciate it. Great, thank you. I wanted to ask, I'm using the redlined version, by the way, for any of the page numbers. One of the things that was referenced in it was most sections on infrastructure, the REAP grant, adding units. Do we have that confirmed with the sanitary district as the moratorium's in place?
Yeah, that's a great question and something that we've been working closely with Jamestown Sanitary on. Their scope of work for that project has been re-scoped, reworked, reapproved to change up their project a little bit to better meet their needs now. And their hope is to be able to achieve some additional capacity through that work, especially with the re-scope that got approved. And so that's the metrics that are in here are directly from the re-scope document that's been approved. So we're working closely with them on that. Thank you.
And then on page 41, it talks about the new units. I think most of that's related to RENA, except for what it's talking about for preserved units. It's like 199 or whatever. The rest is adding up to the total of 5. But I wanted to ask about the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority and Visionary Homes projects. They don't seem to be listed in there for new construction of extremely and very low income housing. I'm wondering, is that because we're not expecting it to be within the next 5 years?
I think they're, and Amy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they're included in there. One, the Visionary Homes project has already been approved and they're working on their financing. So that's something that they need to build that at this point, but it's not necessarily a program or policy that we would have in place because that's already been accomplished. The other project, Stanislaus Regional, that has not yet come to us as a complete application. So we're continuing to work on that project. We expect both those projects to move forward.
Okay, and that may relates to the next question too. We also have Reliant in here, PLHA as one of the things providing assistance to development within the community. We adopted it for a number of purposes, about $2.5 million. Only about $15,000 a year is going to development in a private sense. Most of the rest is transitional housing, homeless shelter, and those types of things. I believe there's $50,000 set aside for these. Are we planning to, given that we've gotten other grants between when we started the housing element cycle and to where we're at now, we've had the encampment resolution grant, we've done a number of capital projects. Are we planning to reevaluate that within the housing element to change that PLHA would be going to other things?
That's a great question that I'm going to answer a little bit, but only to the best of my knowledge. That I believe that funding is all earmarked, or it's committed, and so I don't know that there's extra funding that's been supplanted by any other funding source. And so I could get you more detail about that and where those funds are going. Certainly, if there was any that was not committed, we would, be looking to make sure that goes to projects that are most viable and need.
Okay.
I apologize.
No, and that's fine. That's just been a conversation I'm having that I'd really like that 5-year grant to come back and reevaluate since a lot's changed. I wanted to ask too, so the Foothill Housing Coalition, which I think is a great idea between our counties, that's also integrating with the CSEDD or the Economic Development District or kind of some of these other entities. It's not an entity that I think we've received any updates about what that structure is, what it looks like, what the kind of goals are.
You're referring to the Foothill
Housing Coalition.
I believe that was something that was in the previous housing element that's not brought forward to the current because it doesn't exist at this point. I believe the Housing Collaborative was something that kind of took that over, but very specific to this county. But the Foothill Collaborative, I don't believe, well, it's not an active entity, but I believe that that's being referred to in our previous housing element.
Okay, and that would explain why I haven't heard of what's happening with that. Then I just want to ask the last question. So obviously this, as you mentioned, it really doesn't have any EIR impacts because, not to oversimplify, but it doesn't do a lot, really. It kind of tracks some of the things that we're already doing in large part, but it's not really setting any aggressive goals with that. So if the long-range land use planning, that's going to be the long-range housing document as far as zoning or utilities or anything like that, is that something we are expecting to have come back to the board in somewhat of the near term? Now that this is done, is that the next step after pro-housing designation?
I believe so. I know that that's a priority for Quincy. I believe in the early version of the budget, she had an item in there to pay for doing that work. I know that came out because of the state of the budget, but she's very committed to finding funding. So we'll be looking for funding to complete that. But because that does deal with zoning designations, there will be additional environmental review that will need to be done because it's dealing with those land use planning issues that will have impacts that will need to be addressed. Absolutely.
I think that's what I'm hoping to get back to at some point.
Yes.
Is where do we actually look at the county area and say these are the areas that are the most buildable that we need to upzone and see more density, that we can be able to incentivize or plan for infrastructure or whatever it is. Focus efforts there, because I know right now we've got a lot of properties in our inventory that have those things but haven't been built yet, and they're spread out in areas that may no longer be as viable as they were before. So I'm very excited about when that would come back because that's what I've been hoping for a few years. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Haff, do you have some questions?
Those were great questions, Supervisor Brandon. And I just had some about the upcoming projects that I thought were in process, and I guess they are still in process. So that answers my question.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Campbell.
Just kind of have one question. So once we submit the housing element to HCD, will that have any impact on getting a different RENA designation down the line that's more accurate to what we see?
I'm going to let Amy answer that.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here. Every RENA cycle, there is a process that happens that starts with the state and then goes down to the regional level, and it's a little different every time. So it's the fact that you're getting in compliance and meeting your obligations under state law and moving forward with your local vision for housing is all very good, but it may not have much impact on what happens for the 8th cycle. I guess you guys are out in front of most of the state in terms of being on the 7th cycle already. And just from my knowledge of the small amount of areas that are already in the 7th cycle, for areas that are, and most of them are rural and have pretty high fire risk, I'm generalizing, but the RENA has gone down. And I think that's one of the bigger reasons. So we'll see if in the 8th cycle, if it continues to be, the state is saying we're not requiring housing for those reasons, but it's up to the local community to decide, your personal RENA, so to speak. But I don't know for sure. We will see.
Yeah, I've always kind of been curious about that. What was the RENA? I mean, it's clearly not what our housing need is, and so you sort of answered my question that I've already been operating on, is that we just kind of ignore that number and do what's best for us.
It is a minimum number from the state's perspective. So I think they're working amongst the different, state priorities beyond housing and community development in this process. And you guys know what your local situation is.
Thank you.
Supervisor Kirk. No questions? Okay. I had one, and I'm not sure if you covered this. In going through some of the materials in the document, there was one, it was Table 2.1 Housing Element Implementation Chart, 3.A.A. This one just popped out at me, and so I was curious because I hadn't realized this was there. And, so it's discussing, vacant sites for residential development database. And, it talks about responsibility, funding, timeframe by December of 2025. I guess I just wasn't. I'm in favor of this type of effort, and have we actually started on this, or is this something that's in the planning stages, to get a collective?
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor. Good question. I believe that this was actually in our previous housing element that we did not do. So we have a list of these sites, and that's done by analysis, but the part about making that list available and having it a searchable database is not something that's been implemented, and we would be working with GIS to do that. I think it's been an intent to do it for a long time, but it may just not have been one of those kind of priorities where staff time was able to be dedicated to it. So I think that's maybe true with a lot of the housing element programs over time, and so having a dedicated staff person to be able to kind of manage implementation of those hopefully will help us get there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I didn't have any other questions, so I will look for public comment on this item. Would any member of the public like to speak about our agenda 1:30 p.m. 3? Hello.
Hello. I have a couple questions. First, I just wanted to ask, I think you said that the Title 17 revisions aren't part of the approval today?
If you could please address the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's what was said. I just wanted to confirm that. I think that was eliminated there. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but a couple of things stood out to me, and one of them was the ministerial process in my experience with the county was a way to get around CEQA. So I want to make sure it's in the right order, because that has to do a lot with the development, the streamlined permitting system. Because I noticed there were in June there was about 200 streamlined applications for building permits, which is great. I mean, that's what we need. But I just want to make sure that I was told that they were by right permits, but when I read the guidelines for 65913.4, which is the updated streamlined ministerial approval process, it stated that the by right part was the fact that you're in a zone that either permits or has a conditional use column for a house that you can put in a building or a house, a home, a residence. The by right part is not the ministerial aspect of it. That has its own definition, which is, it's pretty clear, and it's in that document, and it's also let's see, what's the number of that little bugger? Hold on a second. That goes under Cal Code Regs Title 14, 15369. I won't read the whole thing to you, but it's because it is referenced in the document. That's where I found the number. So I just wanted to make sure that by right part was in the proper order, and not thinking the ministerial part was the by right part, but the fact that it's a home and a residence that you have the right to because it's allowed on your particular zone. Thank you.
You bet. And if staff could address this question, it'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the Title 17 revisions that are called for in the housing element are not part of any decision that's being made today. Those will need to come to the board separately as ordinance code amendments. And those will come separately and have an opportunity for the public to provide comment on those. That will be a separate decision-making process, not any part of today's process. We're pointing out that it's in the housing element. We're required by law to address those. So it's a program, not deciding on that today. In terms of discussion within the document about by right and ministerial processes, those are describing processes that are already in place according to the Title 17 ordinance code that is currently in place. The housing element doesn't change any of our processes related to development. It describes processes that are already in place according to ordinance code. It describes our responsibilities. And our programs part of the housing element is what prescribes the changes or describes the changes that we'll be making in the process. So anything that's related to like zoning clearance by right or ministerial is something that's already within ordinance code, if that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, we've gone through the general plan, we've gone through Title 17, we've gone through objective design standards. As Supervisor Brandon pointed out, this isn't really subject to CEQA. It has a lot of words and everything else in it. It's another step in the process that's needed. There's nothing in there that we see as being adversarial. It's all processes that are needed to meet the state guidelines. And there's still a number of other things we want to look at with ordinances and others going forward in the committees that we're working on in doing that. I know we've talked about minimum lot size and some of the other things going forward with that. So we're looking forward to bringing those forward. But as far as this goes with the housing element, it's another step in the process. And we encourage you to pass this along so we can keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I'll close the public hearing and look for comments, and I'll start with Supervisor Half.
It's hard starting first. I don't really have any. comments. I'm just really in favor of getting this done because I think it'll open up opportunities for us down the road. Thank you.
Okay. I can come back to you after the other board members go. If you think of something else, just give me the high sign. Okay. Supervisor Crook.
No, I don't have, I mean, it's a huge document. I was joking with Tamara. And I will agree with some of Supervisor Brandon's questions and Ron Koff's sentiments. It's a state requirement, but we're doing this for all the right reasons, and here we are. So I'm good.
Very good. Supervisor Campbell.
No other comments. Let's get her done.
Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. First, I want to say, Tamara, I know this was a ton of work. This is a required element, and we've discussed it for a lot of years there too. So I do appreciate that. It's good that we're kind of getting through it. But I do just want to say that I don't like the idea of when we do check the box kind of planning where the state requires us to do something, but we don't make that into the most that it can be, or we try to get through something without questioning some of the other stuff around it. And so I wish this set more aggressive goals, and I wish it reflected the level of crisis that we're in, because we have a lot of language in a lot of these general plan documents that is soft and aspirational because that's easy to meet, and if we don't meet it, it doesn't mean we're in violation. But one of the things about putting something into the general plan where this is the housing element, even though, yeah, the root of this is from a state policy, it is a floor, which means we can build and add to it, and we're not that much. And that doesn't add it into our policy for long-term momentum and longevity, which is, I think, where we have general planning in the first place, is because we can do all kinds of things year to year that are great, and yet we want that to have some consistency. And right now we're dealing with a lot of those types of planning decisions that have led to an unfavorable housing environment. So, examples of what I'd love to see, and I know some of this is going to come back with the pro-housing designation, which, hopefully the state keeps as it is and we're qualified and doesn't change that. But, looking at not just sharing this and adding that we're consulting with infrastructure districts, but how do we actually engage in some type of, planning effort so it's not a rubber band effect? How do we look at things we've talked about a lot for community land trusts or financing districts, where we're identifying a lot of problems, but not necessarily ways to solve some of the stuff outside of, well, we'll wait for a grant. Sometimes it comes, but most of the time it doesn't, and not for workforce general housing. And then lastly, looking at even within mobile home parks, it's great that we're going for the MORE grant. It's great that we're getting some of these units fixed up. That is a good thing, but we've got hundreds of dilapidated mobile home park units in the county, and that's an area where there is money, and there's a bunch of just other areas. So I'm fine, I guess, moving this forward, but I'm always going to be, I guess, somewhat disappointed where we put a lot of time, precious staff time, into an element. We spend a lot of money on a consultant, and we end up with something that is 98% the document we had for the last 5 years, because that makes me feel like the 3.5 years we've been talking about this, it hasn't had the impact or the gravity that it needs to. So I guess that's to say that I look forward to the long-range plan coming back, but we've had several of these, and we have done some good stuff with it, but how do we ensure that we're adding, again, that momentum that matches the severity of the housing crisis into our long-range planning documents, the same as was done to, I think, what we're dealing with now, to put that momentum in the future towards building more housing, building more infrastructure, rezoning more areas. I think that's going to be really key, because if we come back and it's kind of reflecting a couple of adjustments and that it's just not, it's not the right turn that we need on kind of the path we've been on for housing. So.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other comments. I'll give Supervisor Half one more opportunity if she'd like to weigh back in.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. So I think we're set here. Appreciate the presentation. So we have an action item tied to this. So I would look for a motion on this item?
Move on staff recommendation.
Second.
So I have motion by Supervisor Brandon, seconded by Supervisor Campbell. And we'll get a roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Goldenberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Campbell.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirk.
Aye.
Supervisor Happ.
Aye.
And Supervisor Brandon.
Aye.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so at this point at our meeting, we've covered all the agenda items, but I'd like to do reports. And Supervisor Happ, do you have anything you'd like to report?
I have 4 things.
Okay, please go ahead.
I think at the last board meeting, I talked to you all about writing to PG&E as a follow-up to our September 2023 meeting where, we asked for detailed answers in writing. And so in June, I think it was, June 24th, I wrote back to them and said, okay, we've done one thing, but these other 2 things still need to be addressed, and I'd like it in writing. That's paraphrasing this whole letter that I sent to not only our VP of operations for the regional area of PG&E, but also CPUC and a whole bunch of other folks received this. Anyway, we did get an answer back, and I'm still digesting it. It is some good news for not just Groveland and my district, but other areas of the county. So you'll be hearing from me pretty soon when I get something put together for that, and you'll see their response later, and then mine. Also, this week I wrote, or actually end of last week, I wrote to the CPUC president, Alice Reynolds, regarding our broadband low count, especially as it relates to the BEAD program. We have an outlying 2016 CASF grant that has not been completed. It's holding us back. I'm hearing myself repeat. I don't know if Daniel can take care of this. It's hard to think when I'm hearing my voice come back.
We're and looking at the screen, if I can interrupt just for a moment, and look at the screen, I saw you up twice on the screen. Did you have another device going?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I think one at the board does. I think that was the problem before. That's better, whatever it is.
It disappeared, so I think we're good.
It's hard to think hearing my voice come back.
Sure.
Anyway, she did respond. She said, this is serious, and she was going to look into it. So I want you to know there's something coming from that, too, because we are so discounted in the financial funding for broadband because this 2016 grant was not satisfied and it's holding up a lot of eligible property that could be counted as unserved, not just underserved, but unserved. So more on that later when I do get after she looks into it fully and reports back. Then I'm happy to report that I attended my first event in over 2 months. It was after I got my shoe instead of a boot on last Friday. So I went to the grand opening of the Rivian electric charging station in Groveland, and it was great. I won't go into it, but they are very community-minded, and I think they're going to be a great addition to the Groveland community, and I'm hoping that they will inspire people who stop there to spend some time in Groveland and maybe even become a part of the community. They're the adventure car company, adventure vehicle company, and that's kind of the spirit over there. And the last thing is just I'm looking forward to returning in person. I'm walking with a cane, but I am walking and I can drive now. And I'll be resuming office, coming to the office and coming to meetings as of August 1st. All right, thank you.
Very good, thank you, and looking forward to seeing you in person again. Supervisor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Supervisor Half. Hoping to have you back. We've missed you and wishing you, as always, a speedy recovery. I'll just go over a couple of things that I think would be of interest to the board. So we will be having a visit from some of our PG&E representatives in the Phoenix Lake Estates area. As you know, that's an area that's had about, I think, 15 power outages since the beginning of the year. If you include last year, we're in probably close to 30. It's kind of a regular thing. I would say that they have gotten better when the power goes out. It's certainly, I mean, I'm not an electrician, but it seems that it's related to the ESPS system. They seem really quick about turning it back on now, and that's a good thing, but ideally we wouldn't be having these routine outages, and it's affecting kind of random areas, sometimes down to Columbia, sometimes up in Cedar Ridge, sometimes Upper Crystal Falls. It's kind of a crapshoot, but always centered on that one community, it seems. So they're going to be they're kind of addressing that, and hopefully we'll get some more clear answers about what the problem is and how we can fix it. Something I did on Friday last week. Lost my place. So just kind of talk about I was able to visit the waste management facility in Lodi. It's where all the recycling, and I'm sorry, this was the previous Friday, all the recycling for our county goes to this one facility, and we actually got numbers from them that are the amount of trash that's included in the recycling for our county is actually lower than some other communities that they service. All the valley and all the mountain counties kind of come to this one center for recycling, and so we have a pretty good ratio of non-recyclable material mixed in with recyclable material. So that was something interesting I took away from that. Willow Springs Market also opened on the 2015 on the 15th, and it's the old Willow Springs Market. Now it's called the Divine Market, and it's on Willow Springs Drive. It's a really great restaurant and grocery store for that community that really doesn't have any of those type of options. I would call it a food desert, that to use some of the parlance of our times and some of the buzzwords, but that is truly what it is. People that live in those communities have to drive if they want to get any food, and now they don't. So that's great. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Kirk.
Just regular business, and I don't know if I brought this up about Pinecrest. Oh yeah, I brought it up Thursday, but it is getting out of hand again, and everybody's pretty sick of it. So I want to thank the new sheriff. I had a conversation with him, and also Jason Kiken and some others, and it looks like we're going to get together in September or October once the season's kind of over. But the sheriff already has some ideas that we floated together to start cracking down on some of the issues, but I think everybody at the table agrees that this is kind of the new norm, so we got to change the way we're maybe dealing with Pinecrest. And so I know it's in my district, but I don't know about you guys, but you can't really go up there on the weekend anymore. So I like to make it a little bit of a nicer place, and hopefully our locals can enjoy it better. But we're going to start addressing some of those issues.
And you're talking about traffic, crime, trash?
Talking about traffic, trash, illegal parking, people going up there the night before and dumping all their stuff on the beach, dogs peeing all over the place. Everybody has a service dog now. It's just, I brought my daughter up there last year and a dog peed on her in the water. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, but we're going to start with the enforcement mechanism, and then I have a really big idea, but it's going to take a long time, and I need the U.S. Forest Service to agree. But it basically entails an ecological study to show how the impacts of how all these people coming up there might be kind of damaging the resources. And then a result of that could be trying to mitigate some of those problems. But we're going to start with illegal parking. The big thing right now is if there's a fire or something and people need to get in and out quick, there's so much illegal parking where it's jamming up the roads where potentially fire and EMS can't even get through certain parts. So that's what we're going to start with.
Supervisor Brandon.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll start with the NACO conference. So a couple full days of flying to be able to go out there. It was interesting. We had George Dunlap was elected as the new second vice president from North Carolina. I think he'll do a good job. California very much supported George and the total votes. It's also somewhat insane. We have, I think, 400 out of the 2,000 votes within NACO, just within California. So we carry quite a sway there. We also saw James Gore, Sonoma County, elected as or put in as first president or only president, NACO president, moving up from first vice president. So really excited to see what Jimmy does with all of that. So while there, of course, most of our conferences, we have a coordination session with the California caucus. We also have the Rural Action Caucus. And they were talking about a number of things from, particularly large tree rules, federal lands. We had the adoption of the platforms. Everything that was recommended was supported by CSAC, except for one that did not make it to the final platform. Other than that, everything was adopted into it, including a number of California-sponsored resolutions. One of those days was on the Telecommunications Committee. It was really interesting to have a presentation from the Chief AI Officer of the United States, which is an actual title, who clarified that he's not an AI scientist expert, which was interesting. He's a kind of policy crossover, but mentioning that this is something to have governance strategies within counties and governments, but it's a very unwise idea to either stop it within employment or to discourage its use, because it's a reality, and having an AI understanding workforce is really important. There's been a lot of work within the National Association of Counties on an AI task force, making recommendations for public leadership. And lastly, a few cool, interesting things like a new grant called EECDBG, which is Energy Efficiency Power Projects. Just another example of federal money that is coming out that with the right plans we may be able to access with staffing. Other than that, this Friday I've got a PG&E Local Leaders Roundtable that I'll be attending on technology demonstration. Had a ECS training for early childhood education with ATCA. We had a business license discussion. I think you'll be covering a little more with the chambers there. And then it was great to celebrate with our state senator the Nonprofit of the Year, One Pile at a Time, all the work that they've been doing. We had a little event at Flappy's. It's great that, I mean, for being able to show up, because I know she's hopping event to event to event, driving a few hours on that circuit to come up and spend some time with a local nonprofit and have some lemonade and pizza. It just shows a level of caring that, I don't know, the entire time I've been, let's say, politically engaged up here, really in Tuolumne County, I have not seen that level of engagement from any elected official. We're lucky if we do get some visits, but certainly not just the kind of, I'm going to call that house calls. That was a really nice event.
Very good, thank you. I neglected to ask staff, county council, CEO, do you folks have anything? How about you, Rachel? You got anything? No? All right, I have just a couple items. Supervisor Brandon just mentioned we did have a business license discussion, actually just yesterday. And I believe we had somebody from all the chambers there. So there was a good discussion. We definitely did not come to any conclusions or path forward other than it was a good discussion, and we all agreed that we would like to put our heads back together and meet again. And so Robbie Bergstrom is going to facilitate setting up a second meeting in order to do that. I also had a couple of NACO items that kind of follow up from my trip to the NACO Legislative Conference back in February in Washington, D.C., where they reached back out to me, approximately 2 weeks ago, but I didn't get it right away because I was out sick for a bit. Anyways, they, as part of that trip, I participated in a roundtable discussion with both NACO and the Pew Charitable Trust folks, who are very interested in disaster resilience types of discussions with a focus on financial, but also just in building. Pew Research does a lot of, Pew's Charitable Trust does a lot of research. And so they reached back out. They wanted some additional information, and I was very pleased that staff from Dory from OES was able to give, they had some questions about our home hardening grant, our defensible space grant, the home hardening $20 million, the defensible space $10 million, and they were very interested in our MSA activities, and especially the efforts of YSS as part of that, which is now up to, Caitlin said we're somewhere in the neighborhood of $95 million worth of effort has been put into this county through the MSA, which is an incredible amount. There is another item that NACO did just to follow up with me just this morning that I'm going to get back together and look at a little bit further. There'll be more on that as it comes, but there might be an opportunity that's got some possibilities for Tuolumne County. So once I have a little bit more information on that, then I'll follow up and report it out as that develops. And other than that, we will adjourn our meeting at 4:08 p.m. And thank you.